I thought you and Nash would like a bit of a cuddle.
You put us together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got. I saw mine on my little bookshelf thingy the other day. Actually, my final account DVD. What else is on there? Then give us a tour through your Carpy books.
It won't take long. You've already started recording. I see. You can't catch me out like that. We have got In Pursuit, Terry Hearn, River Monsters, a bit of Jeremy Wade.
Oh yeah.
Carp Tales, edited by Paul Selman. Remember that one when he had what was his book company called? Paul Selman.
I don't know. ToxicManLivingInFrance.com.
That's the one. And moving on, that leads perfectly into Kevin Nash, The Demon Eye.
Yeah.
6 British Carp Study Book. Fanning the Flames by Ian Chilcott. Light My Fire by Chile again. If you've not read Light My Fire, I think it's one of the best out there.
Yeah.
I've put it. I think I've put it my own personal number 3 with, Terry Hearn's In Pursuit and Dave Lane's Obsession, joint number 1.
Yeah.
Only my personal choice though. Everyone's different. Oh, we've got Still Searching by Terry, Adventures of a Carp Angler by Crowley, and then Forces of Nature, Oz Holness.
I tell you what, I found on my shelf the other day. I only looked for it because Dave Lane's reprinted his
Obsession with Carp. Yeah, I've lost mine. I'm sure I've lent it to someone and I've not had it returned. I've spoke to the person who I think's got it. He's ginger and he denies it. Is there a connection? Well, he was ginger. He's old and grey now.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? But, I know fair few ginger people, and the ginger colour they are at school compared to the ginger colour they are now they're like our age, it's completely different. I wondered if it was some sort of punishment by God, or creator or whatever. I mean, when do you really want it ginger? Like, not when you're young and kids are ruthless at school.
Kids are brutal, but there's something I want you to check out when you get a minute.
Yeah.
There's an Instagram page. I'm going to talk... I'm moving to the mic and talk quietly so my wife doesn't hear me.
Oh, nice and deep and sexy now.
Nice and deep. Oh, yes. But if you check out Viking Vixens on Instagram, if you like redheads, that's where to go. Carp Cast tip of the week.
Tip of week.
Viking Vixens.
If I remember to put it in, I've got a jingle for... Oh, no, it's Dick at Week.
No, here we've got fucking Dick at Week.
Interesting, yeah. Mark and I found this app where we can use our iPhone cameras, which the cameras on the iPhones are a lot better quality than most HD webcams now. So we can actually... I can see the blushing on my cheeks. So I've been rushing about and playing with the dogs and stuff. But
blushing or blusher?
Yeah, it does look like blushing, doesn't it? But I've got any more red now. But you can actually see us a bit less grainy than normal, which is not necessarily a good thing. But
perfect faces for radio. We've said that all the way through episodes 1 to 100 and ruined it by putting our faces out there.
Yeah, I know. As our beards are getting greyer, mine. Look at that, it's all grey underneath. That definitely wasn't like that when I started the Carp Cast.
Grey? Mine's fucking white. Mine's gone. I'm just going to...
I don't
know whether to just keep it trimmed or, and try and look sort of sophisticated and use it as a sign of wisdom, or just let it go wild and go for the full-on Gandalf.
Go for the Viking look. Yeah, but it's quite symmetrical, isn't it? You've got the ginger bit down the middle and then grey outside.
That's me little bit of Viking genes.
Yeah, it's good.
Speaking of...
go on.
On a totally different topic, speaking of Vikings and Iceland, I'm sure you haven't been following, but it's about to erupt again.
Oh, is it? The Icelandic...
yeah, it's actually... I forgot its name. It's not the one that got you trapped in the south of France that time. Which... can you remember what that one was called?
No.
It's actually called Eyjafjallajökull. That is my one talent. I know the name of that volcano.
Say it slowly.
Eyjafjallajökull. It's actually 3 words in one. You've got Eyja for island, Fjalla, which is mountain, I believe, and Yokutt, which is glacier.
Okay.
Yokutt.
Icelandic education, courtesy of the Carp Cast. The Carp Cast episode 108. Hello and welcome.
Yes.
We had what we call a soft intro there, where I'll try stitching Mark up because he was looking at his bookcase and we were getting some deep inside Carp Cast towers. But yeah,
the Carp Cast cave. Well, Carp Cast corner. This is a corner. It's not much of a cave. That's outside.
No, it's just missing your bream pictures on the wall behind you. But I think once you got them, we're in business.
Do you think I should put a bream up there? I've got my little
I don't know, but
give me a tickle.
You know the watermark that's on the screen from this this app that we use in.
I can see it bottom.
Now. It's carpy. Look, camo.
That's it with the camo cast.
Yeah, it's called camo. There's no watermark on mine because I'm using the the virtual background thingy, so it's only picking out my body and the rest of the picture. So yeah, that's a way to get rid of.
There's a dodge.
Yeah, dodge for getting rid of the watermark without paying whatever you got to pay per month for the pro version. But it's an extremely good app actually. If you're doing any blogging or webcamming or whatever, we're probably late to the party and you already know about it. But it's an app called Camo. App you need to download on your phone and your computer. Then you can just connect your phone to the computer and use it as a HD webcam for all your Zoom or Skype or anything really. Just pops the watermark in as we said, but it's not on mine because I'm using a virtual background thingy. So I've got the nice long exposure night shot at the back of me. But once we start fishing again this year, fishing properly, I'm going to make sure I get lots of kind of water, just looking at the water shots, hopefully just to pick fish nutting out of the lake so that as you're watching us, then, you might be able to spot one that we didn't spot. I'm just going to set the camera up for an hour on first light every morning, just get a load of water footage and then put that behind.
You've got to have the rods inside. You get a run on camera.
Oh, obviously, yeah, if we get a take. I'm going to go fishing next week, actually, Mark.
Dusting the rods off?
Yeah, and I want to have a little practice with the filming equipment as well. I'm going to been chatting with Ben Hesketh today, internationally acclaimed Tracker Ben. Is his
shout out to Ben.
Shout out to Ben. Internationally famous Tracker Ben is his name because we were on Lake Bled. He came out with Alex and the gang for a trip to Bled. I think it was the first year we started Holiday Company, so 3 years ago. And on the side of Lake Bled, some guy, I think he was Austrian or Italian or something, he stopped him. He went, "Are you Ben from Tracker?" And so obviously we all fell about laughing, and he's now known as internationally renowned Tracker Ben. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to go out with Ben. He's going to show me a few. He's extremely good with the camera, and I know about editing. So we're going to put our skills together, and he can show me how to use a camera properly. And we'll maybe, I think we're going to go around some like the little farm pools and the day ticket ponds around Blackpool. One thing this lockdown's done, Mark, is it's kind of made people look local, isn't it? Maybe bits of water that they'd otherwise ignored.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually rejoined a club lake where, over 25 years back, I actually caught my first double, first 20 and first 30 from this place. And
wow.
Can't catch anything but tension bream from it at the minute, but then again, nothing's coming out. It's been the couple of days I've had at it. I've either been hanging on to the brolly because it's been blowing a gale, or like the other day when I spoke to you down there, it was one of those flat, calm, nothing really happening, just stale days. The most exciting it got was, I did catch a tench about 4 or 5 pound, but out of the sightings there was, I did see some bubblers, which is where I got the tench from, so I was a bit proactive there and it got me a tench. I felt justified. I'd rather have had a carp, but...
Did you get a picture?
No, it was a tench.
Yeah.
Well, I unhooked it in the edge.
We want tension bream pictures behind you to look at on your wall.
No.
Corner cave.
I might put a carp up there. I have.
You got to catch one first. Let's see,
I've caught 1 or 2 in the past. This is pre-greyness, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I just made a Facebook post. I don't know if I spoke to you about it before, but about a little club lake we used to fish. Do you know if there's so it's basically a club lake in Beds. It had a fish that was supposedly like an easy 40, and this was in the days where there weren't many 40s. You were joining lakes, that had. There weren't that many public 40 lakes, really, were there at the time? There was long waiting list syndicates, but you're looking at there was literally a handful of lakes that had 50s in, maybe 3, 4, 5 known about anyway in the country, and you were joining a lake that had, a 41 pounder was enough to justify travelling whatever length of the country. And Elstow was the first, Elstow 2, that overstocked easy runs water.
Yeah, the one that we both caught with other people's knowledge. That's the one.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's...
don't feed the trolls, Mark. Don't feed the trolls.
No, they can go do whatever with themselves. But yeah, when you start fishing like these sort of places, the well-known, like the Elstow and the St Ives and that, you get talking to locals, you get friendly, and you learn about all these off-the-radar places as well. Like the one we're talking about, 60 quid for a ticket, 5 miles up the road from Elstow. There was,
and had a good 40 in it that was easy. It was supposed to be. It was said to be easy, wasn't it?
Well, it must be. We both caught it.
Yeah, but there was stories of people catching it, quickly, like first day. There was definitely a story about somebody having it off the top, like in just literally nipped down there and seen fish and caught it straight away. One of our friends, split shot, he's known as Martin Wassell.
Martin Wassell, yeah, he caught the twin, motored down there for his last night of his session, or he might have had a couple of nights, I don't know, but he caught that straight away after the twin as well.
Yeah, it was
a result.
Yeah, amazing result. He's an extremely good angler. Kind of flies under the radar, doesn't he, split shot? But he's extremely competent angler.
He does have it. He's had a lot of big fish. A lot of big fish that most people will not know about. And I might actually stop there. He'll probably be on the phone after this is out saying, "Don't tell anybody about that one."
yeah, he probably will. Didn't he have a 50 for some days only water around his neck of the woods, Midlands way? Do you remember? I'm sure it was a days only water. Had a 50 or 250s in it, somewhere down the A50, that sort of area.
I have no idea. I know he...
was that Chemical Lee? That might have been Chemical Lee, actually. Remember the Chemical twins, Chemical brothers?
Yeah, Lee Petty. To be honest, I've no idea. My memory is fading with my chin.
Fading with your ginger. I'm going to keep on about your ginger beard, by the way.
Shall we not talk about the old Dave Mustaine pick?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm going to find out and post it if we carry on.
Do you reckon Dave Mustaine gets sleepless nights? From like leaving one of for those that don't know, he was the original guitarist and
Metallica
and singer in Metallica. Yeah, James Hetfield only taught himself to sing like after they had a big fallout, didn't they? Can you imagine though? Lars, the drummer, has got big ego. James Hetfield, is the big front man. You've got Dave Mustaine as well. That was obviously like a front man in everybody's like. How can it work? I mean, there's too many big personalities there in one band, I guess. Anyway, Dave Mustaine left. Megadeth probably have netted about 1% of what Metallica have in the next 30
I think
years.
Megadeth have had pretty good run themselves, but like you say, it pales in comparison to what Metallica. I mean, have you seen the pictures from the last stadium tour they did? They've outgrown arenas now. It's stadiums.
Yeah, and multiple nights, like big long ones. Saying that, look, somewhere like Long Beach Arena, one of my first incredible albums. Actually, I had a guilty pleasure of it the other day. I think I can't remember when it was. I was driving back from London or something, and put on Live After Death, which was a double album I made, and in fact, it might have been the house cleaning the other day. Anyway, I used to love that album in the early 80s. Obviously, I've been fairly exclusive house music and variations of for the last God knows how many years, but every now and again I was put on one of the old classic rock albums, and I listened to the full lot of Live After Death, which was Long Beach Arena. But if I remember at the time, and this would have been early 80s they recorded that. I can't remember what year it's from the Power Slave tour, what year that album was.
I'm sure Spug Mike Redfern would know exactly.
He'd definitely know,
yeah. He's the man about Maiden.
Exactly. But I'm sure they'd done like 10 straight nights at Long Beach, even then in the early 80s, which is a lot of people. You know, I don't know how big Long Beach Arena is, but the Americans generally aren't small, are they? Scream for me, Long Beach! Must remember that. Bruce Dickinson in his prime. Yes, anyway, we diversified from... I've no idea where we went before the Guilty Pleasures. Oh, yeah, pictures of Bream and Tench on your wall.
Yeah, I think you were going to start talking about actually going on a day's fishing, and you just segued into taking the piss out of me.
Yeah, so... obviously, that was the bigger point, yeah. So I'm going to go out with internationally acclaimed Tracker Ben. Maybe not just carp, but just go and have a look at the water around here and practice filming. He's pretty good with a camera, and I have no idea once I get off the little green square on cameras. So, for some reason,
you were an auto man.
So I can hear.
Is that a dog having a drink?
Yes, well spotted. We should just drop. We can have a new feature for the show: sound effect or reel. So we can just drop little sound effects during the course of it. Listeners can pick them out, and then decide if it's actually something that's happening in my kitchen behind me. I've got a portable studio downstairs in the living room. Normally it's all quiet and soundproofed upstairs, but I've been pretty much living downstairs with babysitting and duties and everything. So
little puppies, puppy daddy.
Little puppers, yeah, beautiful they are. All started playing this week. It's well fun.
How big are they now? As in...
I mean, you can actually see if you want. I can get one. Shall I get one? Do you want to see one?
Yeah, go on, why not? This is visual. Jamie's just off to grab some puppies. Real puppies. I'm sure you don't think I'm being rude or talking about anything else.
Oh,
they're a little... Oh.
I'll pick Dora.
Dora. Oh, they've already got names.
Oh.
Dora the Explorer. Yep.
Let me...
Oh, look at that.
Put my headphones on so I can hear you. I've named this one Dora because all the others just sit in a little pile together, and this one's just off on its own wherever it can. It's got a tiny little white tip on its tail.
Oh yeah,
can you see that there? And it's got two little white paws on the back.
White tips.
Yeah,
some carp have got white tips.
Yeah, look at that for a cute little dogger, a jackapoo.
A jackapoo.
Jackapoo, yeah.
Was that Jack Russell and Poodle?
Yeah, I'm giving one. I've got two godchildren. My mate Dave, who's regularly been spoke about on the show. Yeah, I'm godfather to both his kids, and I said they could have one as a present. But yeah, Katie and Mum came round today. Look at that little cute face and the white chin.
I'll tell you what, it's actually quite bigger than what I expected.
Oh, they're massive. Look at the size of it.
Proper.
Hey. I'm going to put it back 1 sec.
Yeah, well, I've just got two cats here. I love dogs, but you know, the wife's kind of put her foot down on that one. We've got two cats, Ragnar and Floki. I got to name them, so that was a bit of a compromise.
Well, yeah, obviously Katie came around today, and straight away she went, "I want this one," and it was like it's the one I had my eye on. I was like, Dora, it's one we call Dora. It's definitely had the most personality out of them all so far.
So far they're all going to develop. Even cats have personalities, believe it or not.
Yeah, they're miserable ones, all of them. They're just selfish as hell, cats, aren't they? So anyway, I'm going to go out with Tracker Ben and discover the local area. Oh no, they're all squeaking now because I feed it. But this is the thing on the mini studio downstairs is there's lots and lots of noises,
background noise.
Yeah, like dogs drinking out the bowl, little water sounds. So maybe that can be a new feature. What did I say it was? Sound effects or
sound
reel?
Effects for a reel.
Yeah. I'd like to welcome in Mr. Tom Ayres at the minute. I can see him there in the waiting room. It's nice to get him on with Mark and myself.
Yeah. Good evening, Tom.
I believe not a lot's been going on this week, really. You've been a busy boy.
Yeah, I think a lot's been going on for me. I've been busy. So, I come to you with a fairly empty basket of carp news. I know lots of carp anglers are out there. I know the sun's been shining. It's been a bit cold, but I know there's fish being caught. So I've sort of kept my eyes on it. But, my attentions have been diverted with other things at Angling Times. So, I don't have a full rundown of everything going on, but lots of fish being caught.
Give us a rundown on like what your job entails for Angling Times. I mean, lots and lots of people want to work within the fishing industry some way. I know you've got a journalism background. Did you work for the Oxford Post or something at one point?
Yeah, so I worked in local media, worked for 2 local newspapers in Reading and then in Oxford, and then joined the Angling Times in 2012. So I've been there nearly 9 years, and it was things have shifted in that time. I joined as a print journalist, and that's my training and background. And then these days, I do a lot more sort of multimedia stuff, a lot more photography and videography. As you guys have found, putting the podcast up on YouTube, things have really shifted onto YouTube as a platform. And so, I've the modern, whereas 20 years ago when I was buying Carp World every month and Carp Talk every week, I wanted to be in those printed titles. Nowadays, I'd imagine youngsters, teenagers who want to be in the angling trade are probably buying cameras rather than notepads and pens, because they want to film things, they want to photograph things, and that's great. So my role at Angling Times and Carp Feed has changed and evolved over time, from purely print to these days. I mean, for this week, I shot a video for our tackle editor, which was on a method feeder rod up in Lincolnshire. So not particularly carpy, although he caught some nice carp in pretty chilly conditions. And then I edited that video, and then been doing stuff uploading to the website. So in terms of actual print this week, I don't think I've done anything for print this week. So it's really changed. It's fascinating. I think the angling media is a different landscape, but it doesn't make it a worse landscape. It just means it's sort of changed and evolved. It's challenging for the big publishers and the smaller publishers to make money out of it. It's not the same as it was 15, 20 years ago when you had printed media and adverts paid the bills. These days, it's so many different revenue streams and so many ways in which the audiences can get their information and get their media for free. And fundamentally, we're all publishers now. We've all got our Instagram accounts, our Facebook accounts. If you're Tom Maker or Lee Morris or something like that, who, just 2 names who I've seen on Instagram recently, they're effectively their own publishing houses. They can interact directly with their fans. They can answer questions directly, and they're on platforms that are free to access. So it's completely different to the old days. The publishers have to sort of roll with those punches and try and make a business model sort of work in those situations.
In the music world, sort of DJ electronic music world, I have many friends that are well-known DJs and stuff, and they literally have a person that follows them about all day long. It gets taking the content, getting on a plane, off a plane, going to this festival, helicopter to that one. There are people that are basically kind of like a PA, but a content collector and editor and social media manager. Well, I mean, they have teams for the social media and stuff, but I mean, there's these operations are big. You've seen these DJs and stuff, and they're there's 40 or 50 people traveling with them sometimes to the big events. If they're doing a big festival or whatever, like you see this kind of fees that they get paid, but it's all about. I mean, I only use the DJ example because it's an industry that's very ahead of time. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see Terry Hearn or Darryl Peck with the PA following him around doing the video, but I mean, is that not kind of what they're already doing? You got the angler like Darryl, who's doing Carp Fix, and then he's teamed up with is his name Scott McCulloch?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a feeling it was a different McCulloch. I'm not sure. I think it is Scott, actually, but he's got a different middle name, people calling him by. Anyway, he's basically, you know, I assuming he's bringing the film, an editing side to it. Daryl's doing the angling. Obviously, they're a team doing it together, but that's kind of what that is, isn't it? He must be following him everywhere, collecting content. So, are you seeing, maybe that'll be a thing. All the anglers have got a sidekick. It's just basically making content, but new career path for all these people that want to work in the industry. So have you? I remember when I first started speaking to you, Tom, 2 or 3 years ago now, you were just getting into, you had the VW old camper van, and you had the drone, and you made a really good video with the drone kind of following you. You went on a bit of a road trip, didn't you? I remember you saying at the time you were consciously kind of getting into and learning video editing. I mean, had you already been asked to do that, move over that way with Angling Times and stuff, or did you just see the industry going that way and thought I better learn this, or like what was your progression?
I was lucky that I've always been interested in making sort of videos and stuff like that. I had a little tape camcorder when I was a teenager. But these days, I think, and a lot of younger carp anglers, you see it, is that the access to equipment that is good enough to make really high quality videos and films, the barrier to that access has really, really come down. So previously, if you wanted to make Korda underwater or a Korda masterclass DVD, then Korda had to hire a film crew, and did so, to create those DVDs. Nowadays, you can film on, your DSLR cameras. You can film 8K, 4K, 6K, slow motion at 200 frames a second in cameras that are relatively inexpensive, and you can get decent sound quality, and you can edit it all together on a single program that you just pay a monthly subscription for, or buy a one-off thing. So the whole, I mean, I'm sure it's probably similar in the music industry, that where you once needed, banks of synthesizers and a proper recording studio, you can now do it all on software. So it's the same. It's the same in sort of the video making world. And yeah, I saw that the accessibility of making decent quality video was coming down, and so that the consumer level cameras were more affordable. I bought a second-hand Sony, which again seems to be where once it was just Canon or Nikon in the camera world. Now there's other challengers who are making really good stuff, like Fuji and Panasonic and Sony make really good cameras that you can shoot good video on. I bought a second-hand sort of bundle of camera stuff, and then with a drone, and then some of the stuff that the drone manufacturers make for sort of stabilized cameras. Taught myself and used it to just film my hobbies and things like that, and it just sort of dovetailed with where the fishing industry was going. So I was really lucky. Bauer allowed me to experiment and make some pretty shonky videos for Angling Times, but it allowed me to learn sort of as I went, and sort of progress. And I think you'll find younger listeners that might chime with them, because if they're given a chance to just take a GoPro fishing, that might lead to buying a DSLR, and that might lead to buying microphones and a gimbal and a drone, and it's all a progression. And with every hobby, you might fall at one hurdle and go, no, that's too difficult for me, or it's not worth the effort to learn. But for me, it was just a real passion. I threw myself into learning. Again, YouTube's a great resource for learning about things, as it is for learning about fishing stuff. It's just all progressed with that. And I have been lucky. Angling Times have let me play around with video cameras and sound recording equipment and stuff like that. And we're all very multimedia. The fact that I'm on this podcast with you is testament to that.
Have Angling Times got a load of gear to play with them? Have they got some like high-end equipment you can take out and stuff, or are you using all your own stuff?
So when I joined Angling Times, we had a field photographer, we had two very talented field photographers. Mick Rouse, who many general course anglers might well have heard of. He's a good pike angler and a well-known photographer. Photographed many big carp captures. I think he photographed Mary for Kev Cummings. He photographed some big fish for Jim Shelley. I know I think he had to bribe him with a slab of Stella, I think, for one particular photo. And we had another field photographer called Lloyd Rogers, who is currently filming Rich Wilby's All-Round Angler series on YouTube that some people may well have seen.
That Rich's sidekick.
Yeah.
Everyone's got one.
Well, exactly. Yeah, he is effectively Rich's sidekick for that. So yeah, it's not too dissimilar to that music industry example. Yeah, they've both left Bauer. We've still got a studio photographer, a bloke called Jack, who used to photograph things like Max Power, and he's got lots of tales to tell from his little studio in the Bauer offices. So he doesn't see the light of day very often, but he does a lot of our studio shots, so close up of products and things like that. And yeah, I was allowed to learn from those photographers, and yeah, we've got some in-house kit. I've just been furnished with a new Sony camera from work, which is great. Although I have bought my own kit, which I use predominantly for the video side of things. So it's yeah, I've been lucky to be able to play with a bit of kit, but I've also, because I'm part freelance, I don't work for Angling Times full time these days. I'm 3 days a week, so I've invested in my own kit, and that's allowed me to do other stuff. I'm filming some cars tomorrow for a garage that works on sort of expensive and quick BMWs, so that'll be quite good fun, and just takes me away from the fishing side of things. And yeah, it's I mean, I'll be honest, the tackle companies probably these days have more kit than the publishers do, which is a real role reversal. If you look at the Nash, the Fox, and the Korda media teams, then I'd imagine their number of cameras, number of batteries, memory cards, mics, and stuff like that probably exceeds what we, Carpology, DHP, have probably got between us these days, because there has been that role reversal, and content now is a good marketing tool for these big tackle companies. So it's an interesting world at the moment.
Nash didn't have a media team, 10 years ago. It was people in the office did odd bits, and maybe they got people in. And I remember Nashy saying, he was a bit late onto it, but when he realised he needed to do it, he went for it, and committed a few $100,000 in wages to people, to actually get that team. But everything from just learning how to do product shots, making those look sharp and clear and whatever, it's extremely important. Everyone knows it now. It's gone from the days of tackle companies going, "Oh, I'll get a lad out of the warehouse to make the Facebook posts." There's social media degrees now. There's you've got to understand the algorithms, how it works, and it's very interesting. And you work with other industries as well, and obviously Bauer are not just fishing; they do much other stuff. How would you say the fishing industry now is comparing to other industries in terms of the media that's going out? Do you think we're on a par, or we're a bit behind still? Or
I think we're probably, with the graph is probably like a long plateau, and then it shot up in recent years. I think we were lagging behind. We shared, pre-COVID, we shared an office with MCN, Motorcycle News, who any listeners who are into their bikes will know, a staple of that scene. And they had a real dedicated web team and videographers long before we did. But that's a good thing about Bauer, is that yes, they're a big sort of corporate entity, but it means there's shared expertise, and so we can, go and talk to certainly the car brands that we've got at Bauer. There's titles such as Practical Classics, Car Magazine, and so and Parkers and things like that, and they produce a lot of video content these days. And I think angling still lags behind a little bit. I think angling's always been, I don't know. It's never been at the cutting edge of technology and things like that, really, and it doesn't need to be. We don't go angling to be, at the forefront of technology. We often go angling to sort of get away from the modern world. So I think that's perhaps natural. But I think probably it'd be an interesting perspective from the tackle company's perspective, because where Korda just blazed a trail, in the late 90s, early 2000s with a bit of slick production, got them a long way, got them well ahead of the competition quite quickly. And I think Danny probably has to be saluted for the way he saw that with a marketeer's sort of eye.
Yeah, Danny's smartness in employing Ali, but Ali was the guy that kind of always had that picture. He's probably the first guy in a big fishing company that actually had a marketing degree. He was a salesman. He could have sold those used cars to Double Glazing and channeled it towards his love, which was fishing. And there's no doubt that changed the industry, I think.
Yeah, I think those DVDs, those underwater DVDs, and those sort of things really just brought it up a notch. And I think companies probably struggled to catch up. And then we've seen the likes of Nash and Fox that that have really caught up and producing, some great productions. That the stuff that we can all watch for free on YouTube, 2-hour long epic, multifaceted sort of videos from France, England, and wherever. We're getting them for free, whereas previously that would be a 20 quid DVD or a video that was probably fairly poorly shot in terms of production value. So Korda led the way. I think then, as naturally happens, companies reacted and have caught up, and now even the smallest companies have got some pretty impressive media content out there. And then for us as a we haven't got anything to sell from our videos. So, where if you're Korda or you're Fox or Nash, you can put a value against investing in video equipment, because you can say, well, if we put a slick production out, we will probably sell 10 times more hooks or whatever we're trying to put into these videos. For people like Angling Times, Carp Feed, Total Carp, Carpology, then the proposition is a bit different, and you probably rely on your ability to be a valuable sort of third-party recommendation station. We can show people stuff independently, although, the lines do blur with advertorial content. And I think audiences are probably a bit more savvy to knowing when they're being sold at, I suppose, these days. So it's a fascinating mix at the moment. And I think angling as a whole has sort of leveled up, and now it's a bit, there isn't a soar away market leader like Korda were in terms of their promotions and marketing. And we're all sort of catching up. I don't know what the answer will be long term for publishers and how they make their money. I think looking at things like Sipography and Daryl's Carp Fix and Carp Angle, they've all gone slightly different routes in terms of how they monetize that sort of content. But it's a fascinating time. It's an interesting time to be in the industry. And if you're a 17-year-old carp mad kid at the moment, then get your GoPro out, just have fun and see what you can produce, because that might well be the route into the industry, whereas previously it was all about taking good slides and being able to construct a good opening paragraph and then 2,000 words on HMV baits. So things have things have changed. So it's fascinating to be part of it, and I feel very lucky to be part of it. I think we're all lucky to be in the industry in different ways, and it's still a small industry. There aren't hundreds of jobs in the industry, and I'm aware how privileged I am to be part of it.
Yeah, and these skills that we're talking about, all industries need these skills now, isn't it? It's not a bad career path to go down, isn't it? To learn, how to use a camera properly, how to edit the software, the types of shots to take, and even just basic stuff. We live in an online marketing world now, and everything you see from all these adverts, whatever you talk about, from beard dye for Mark and hair removal cream, or you name it, there's a product shot. Somebody there has been paid to sit that on a nice white background, get the lighting right, take a very sharp picture, edit it, and package that with whatever. I mean, we're in a consumer world, aren't we? And everything needs that now. So it's not a bad skill to learn, I think. And I'm gonna have a play with some videos. I'm sort of saying the things you were saying to me 3 or 4 years ago about like having a little play and looking for a bit of content to edit up, and literally just. I mean, you've probably been doing it a lot longer than that, but for me to just cut my teeth a little bit in making it just for our own promotion. Mark and I need to promote the Carp Cast as much as we can, especially now we're video, and trying to talk Mark into it. I've got to set a couple of lav mics, wireless lav mics this week, and I'm probably going to go out and have a play with next week using. But as you said, the entry level, I've already got a Canon, whatever it is, a double digit number, whatever it is, a 50, I don't know what it is, but with a couple of lenses, and it had a separate screen. I bought it off a filmmaker who'd just finished a uni course, so it's got all the bits for actually filming, and with a few extra bits, some decent quality mics, and a bit of lighting and stuff. Like, you can make a film with that, and a GoPro maybe. I mean, the beauty of fishing is the underwater. I don't know if you've seen the two lads that have been doing the filming at Farlow's. I think they've done their promo videos. At Dineshi Brothers.
Lewis and Daniel Dineshi. Yeah, really lovely lads. We've had. I think I'm sure I did an article from one of them in perhaps in UK Carp, which was the predecessor to Carp Feed, and yeah, their recent thing that they did on Farlows was. Yeah, is a really good example of what I was saying about how consumers, it's not their job to be. They're not filmmakers by trade, but they're very skillful, but they've got access to relatively affordable kit that allows them to make a video that 10 years ago even would have been inconceivable for a punter on the bank. So it's fascinating.
I mean, 15 years ago, it was inconceivable for Korda. Like the equipment, and I was. I think John Bannister took the technology to him, the underwater cameras at the time, and it was specialised equipment that was quite expensive. Now, obviously, you can put a GoPro on the bottom of a storm pole, and dab it in the lake next to your spot, which is the Dineshi brothers. A lot of their underwater footage, that's exactly how it's done. It's GoPros. I think they're either wading, hand placing them, or dropping them from bait boats, but they're doing it manually from the bank and getting bites on camera, like with equipment that's a few £100, and you can edit that stuff on free software, iMovie and stuff like that. There's tons of apps out there. And this is something that 15 years ago, Korda hired in a big team, hired in a load of equipment. The technology was new, and this has all happened. Like, you can literally do it yourself now off your laptop. It's incredible. And, we're into carp fishing, we're into fish. It's nothing better than seeing that, is there? And the way the Dineshi lads are doing it is, I really want to do. I want to be sat there on the bank with a GoPro out in the lake and watch that bite happen. I don't. Farlows is obviously a decent lake for that to happen. There's a lot of fish in there. The water's fairly clear. It's not, but to find the perfect lake, I mean, they've got a great lake to do that on. But I mean, I'm going to have that in the back of my mind whenever I go fishing now. You find the right spot or the right whatever, you can go position a camera, flick some bait around it, and sit from the bank and watch. It's incredible. Yeah, I like the way the technology is going. Drone next for me, I think. What's an entry-level drone? Good enough for doing all the things us fishermen need, the filming.
Yeah, that DJI are the market leaders. They're a Chinese company who make, almost all of the best-selling drones. They've just launched a new one this week, actually, that's quite acrobatic. It's called FPV, which is first-person view, and you fly them with goggles, effectively virtual reality goggles.
No way.
Probably not necessary for carp fishing stuff, but their base-level models are probably £400-500 secondhand. You could pick up really, and they all film generally in HD and 4K. I've got a fairly aging model, a Phantom 4, which I think secondhand you could probably pick up one for £400 or £500 very easily with spare batteries, memory cards, and they are basically uncrashable. Having said that, I have backed mine into a tree at a lake in France once, but they are pretty idiot proof. I'm lucky enough, I've got a commercial license to be able to fly them for commercial use. But if you're just making your home videos, as it were, you don't need that. You need to be sensible.
Oh no, Mark, he's gone.
Oh, he's still there. He's just gone silent. I think he's. Can you hear us, Tom? You just went a little bit metallic, and we can't hear you now.
Yeah. Tom, the joys of it's the first time this has actually happened with Zoom, isn't it, Mark?
We're talking about all this technology and then it lets us down.
Yeah, but can you see yourself in the drone market soon, Mark?
If I can get one for about £50, I might think about it.
There are some down. There are some for £50 actually. I did buy
they're toys. To be honest, I think I was supposed to go back to one of the old Carp Casts. I've got one that my wife bought downstairs, but it's got a little camera. It takes videos, but it's a cheap, lightweight thing, and all you need is a fart of wind, and that's it. It's gone. It's off. There's not much control of it once it's up. You are at the mercy of the elements.
Right, there's a thing called the drone code, which I would have. Am I back?
You're back, yes.
He's back.
You just froze and your voice disappeared. I could see you talking, but the voice went. Yeah, so we were talking.
Apologies. Sorry, I was in full flow as well, talking about drones. I quite like drones. Sorry if you didn't. My Mac suddenly gave me that spinning wheel of death.
Oh, no.
As I was saying, I was just basically saying be safe if you use a drone, but the modern ones are pretty uncrashable. And yeah, you can get into drone flying quite. Yeah, it's quite accessible, like the rest of the kit, like GoPros and decent video cameras as well.
How much is or how complicated is it to get the commercial license? What is it, a big bit of rigmarole to go through?
So I did a day in a virtual classroom I did it last year during COVID times. It would normally be sort of a day in a classroom. Then you've got a multiple choice theory test, a bit like your driving theory test. And then you do, at the moment, there are 2 levels of drone course, one for sort of hobbyists and one if you want to do it commercially and charge for it. And for the latter, which I did, you need to do a practical test, which is quite nerve wracking. So,
you have to actually fly the drone and like in front of someone.
Yeah, so it was, and the drone I've got is slightly an older model, and it has a full manual mode, which most of the modern drones don't have. So I had to fly it in full manual mode, which makes you realise when you turn off all the artificial intelligence systems just how well they work, because it will drift on the wind and things like that. And yeah, fortunately I passed, but it's good to that there is a system of sort of regulation in place, because I think it took the authorities a while to catch up. The technology blossomed before the lawmakers could sort of get their arse into gear and catch up. So it's all legislated by the Civil Aviation Authority. So it's like you have to learn about aviation like a real pilot would do and things like that. But if you want to fly, if you want to fly just with you and your mates and just keep the footage for yourself and not sell it commercially, then yeah, you can buy a drone off the shelf and go and fly it over a lake, put a polarizing filter on it, and see where those fish are.
So at our level, if we're doing, if I get some drone footage for a Carp Cast video that is on YouTube, and we do have a professional partner account or whatever where we can monetize it, technically we need a commercial license for that or not?
I think you should be okay with it. As I said, at the moment there are 2 tiers of sort of certification, I suppose, and the lower tier is quite cheap to get. I think you can probably do it involves the learning and then the multiple choice questions online. It doesn't involve the practical test, and I think you could probably get that. I might be wrong, but for around £100, maybe £200. Whereas the more involved course is a bit more expensive than that. Generally, you have to. These days, it is a legal requirement. No matter what you're using your drone for, you have to register it with the Civil Aviation Authority. You have to register you get a code for you and a code for your drone, which you have to label onto your drone. Wow. So people sometimes forget that, it's so easy to buy them and they're so idiot proof that there is still a little bit of, because you can technically fly them, 5 miles away. And if you flew it into a passenger jet, then God knows what would happen. But for YouTube, I think you'd probably be okay with just registering things and making sure you were sensible with it.
So do you advertise your your freelance services with all this sort of stuff, the drone and stuff? Do you advertise it on Facebook or local adverts, or where are you picking up like odd sort of jobs from?
I've been lucky that it's been a lot of word of mouth. I'm the drone stuff is through an agency, a PR agency in Oxford called Fortitude, and I've got my own Facebook page. But I've not shouted from the rooftops. I've been lucky that work has sort of, one job has followed into another, and then it's keeping me busy enough. So I'm pretty bad at self-promotion, to be honest. So that's I put up as pretty pictures as I can on Facebook, and sometimes that leads to work. And to be honest, I quite enjoy not doing stuff in the fishing industry. That fishing has been my job for nearly a decade, and it's still my job 3 days a week. And I quite like doing stuff outside of fishing. And there's some really talented freelance fishing video content producers out there who are doing great stuff. So I'm happy not to sort of mingle and compete with those and do stuff with video out of the fishing industry. So I like the variety, and it keeps me busy.
Fantastic. And to think we thought we wouldn't have anything to talk about. We did spot a catch report before, didn't we? Something together. In fact, you'd spotted one since I first saw the post this morning from Carl Pritchard, and you reckon you know where he's fishing, don't you?
Yeah, as I said, it's been a busy week for me, and I just haven't been able to keep across all the carp that are being caught. And yeah, you flagged up to me before we came on that someone on your Facebook friends list had caught looked like a flurry of 40s today. And then I went and checked his profile, and he'd banked the 60, and we got quite excited, wondered where it's from. It looks to me as though it's from Abbey Lakes, Fox Lake, I think, on the Abbey Lakes complex in France. I don't know the angler at all. He's got lots of mutual friends with me, so clearly knows people in the industry. But he's somehow in France. Yeah, I looked up the travel regulations, and you have to have a very, very good reason to be in France right now. Who knows? I'm not for me to speculate, but maybe there are a couple of carp anglers who are somehow on the continent at the moment and taking full advantage.
I've seen a few, this last week, but mainly it's people connected with the lakes, and obviously Abbey's a place that a lot of the companies go fish it, making films. Korda were there just before Christmas, shooting content, and work. As much as it's easy for anglers to knock other anglers that seem to be doing things that they're not allowed to do, there's a lot of anglers out there that this is a business. They're working with companies. These companies have still got to keep that content going in a year's time. We don't want to glut where there's absolutely nothing coming out. There's no new products, there's no product shows because everybody just shut off. It's an industry. It's a multi-billion-pound industry, so it's very easy to judge people that seem to be doing something we would all love to be doing. But if it's a hobby and not a career, there's a big difference. I think, which is how Korda were filming. All the big companies have been out filming, as you probably know, during the first lockdown when no one was supposed to be moving about, and obviously this lockdown, the roads, they're no quieter than a normal year, are they? So most people are out there working. If your work happens to be for one of the angling companies, I know Carl. Isn't Carl on the England squad? I'm pretty sure he is. I know he's a sponsored angler. He's contacted me about fishing Croatia and stuff before, but I'm pretty sure Carl Pritchard may have been at one time anyway. I know he's a huge caster.
You might be thinking of Carl Pitcher.
No. There's I did used to get them confused, but no, they're Carl Pritchard. He fishes Grenville as well. He's got a Grenville ticket, but I think he may have been in the. I may be talking completely out of turn, but I've spoke to him in the past on email and stuff because he's been looking at coming over to Croatia. As we've been talking about catch reports, the good old Facebook listening to you algorithm has just now literally opened it up then to have a look at our messages for what we're going to talk about, and RK Leisure, the very first post, although good old algorithm, it was actually posted 3 days ago and it's at the top of my news feed. Alistair White, one of the bailiff team, managed to catch Mike's pet from Raisbury 1 at 52.2 on a day session on Sunday. 50 on a day session, I mean, that's what dreams are made of, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just looking at the catch report now. My colleague Chris Hayden flagged it to me earlier in the week, and yeah, it's a lovely picture. There's a smile on Alistair's face, which is always good to see. There's so many dour carp anglers who don't smile, and you would be smiling, and it says that it's a new current lake record for the North Lake at Raisbury. So, a venue with a load of history and day sessions. I know that Ian Russell's had some good day session success in the last few weeks on that RK Leisure complex around that area. And yeah, another thing, Linear reopened in the last week or so, I think, since we last spoke, and has been really quiet because they're keeping it local anglers only, which for me, I am local to Linear. It might be the only time I get to go down there on a sort of pleasure non-work session and actually find a swim, because there've been reports, they've been quite sort of they've stood their ground and said, anglers from Milton Keynes and other locations are not local, and they've been turning people away, checking driving licenses by the sound of it. So
I saw that. Yeah, I have no idea what address is on my driving license, but it probably isn't where I live. No, it will be now. I've been here 20 years, but it used to. I used to move around every year or two, different towns and whatever. I just left kind of my home address, a parent's address or whatever. It's the only one that didn't change. That was on there for years. So how would that work? Say with Linears, say we went down there filming together, the three of us for a work project. I wonder if they're allowing that. I'm sure they're allowing the companies on there and stuff wherever they come from.
Yeah, I don't know. I did speak to Chris Blunt on email today about something else, but I don't know. It's interesting to see that site fairly empty. You know, they're posting as they do their daily update of how many swims have been taken, and clearly looking at the catch reports, I've seen a couple of the linear staff members, certainly the tackle and bait shop that's fairly recently opened down there. Clearly, those workers there have probably had a bit of a tough time of not been serving customers, of being able to go and fish. So clearly, popping up and catching a few, looking like zigs are the key thing there at the moment, especially on B2. Flinging zigs around seems to be the way.
Yeah, one of the catch reports I saw earlier for B1, it said they'd had the fish at long range on zigs. So I'm guessing the fish just kind of sat out there in the middle. Julian Cundiff, as ever, has been catching. He doesn't seem to blank really, and catches multiples. But one thing I've noticed, in fact, 13 minutes ago, is just put a picture of an absolutely cracking linear, real dark colours on it as well. A real nice fish, actually. But a lot of the fish he's been posting, their mouth is full of leeches, big clumps of them and stuff in the mouth. So I'm guessing these fish have been laying up, and with this milder weather, that they're just starting to come alive. There's fish out there to be caught, I think, at the minute. Yeah, it's good. Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Unless any other news stories cropped up while we've been chatting, then I think we will say goodbye until next week.
Thanks, Tom.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Do you want to know a little coincidence that I noticed while you were having that conversation about drones, and I mentioned the cheap plastic thing that the wife got for me ages ago?
Yeah.
Well, the box is actually right there.
Show it again while the screen's on you. I laughed and it moved the screen to me.
There we go. There it is.
So is it one of them that does tricks? It's just got a little joystick and you press a button and it flicks over and stuff.
It's a cheap little thing. It's got a little camera on the front. I don't know if you can see it there.
Yeah, I bought one of those £50 ones years ago.
It doesn't fly too well. But yeah, it's actually. I remember when we took it out, we ended up chasing it across the field. As a gust of wind took it. It's like it works on an app. You just have your phone in that little bit at the top there.
Yeah,
it's a little aerial, and it's very dusty. It's been a while.
Did you keep your bait boat under that table as well?
Oh, what, sorry?
Mark's making gestures for those of you listening on audio. Yep, if you don't know, we are on video as well now. I'm sure by the amount of people that still don't know, and I'm like, we reference the video quite a lot in the podcast now, but I'm guessing people just don't really listen to us. They fast forward to the bits.
We need to put it out. I mentioned to you, I was speaking to my old friend Ed Bettridge. He's been on the Carp Cast a couple of times before. He's up for coming up again, and when I spoke to him, he actually says, he'd seen that we're on about relaunching it, and they didn't know we'd already had 7 episodes out.
Exactly. So, there's quite a lot of people like that, and good old Facebook algorithms. I know when we make a post on just our Carpcast page, just showing the latest episode or whatever, you look at the insights, I think there's like nearly 9,000 people on the Carpcast page, and like you can see it's like 1,500 people have seen your post, or 1,500 impressions or whatever. So you have to invest a fair bit of money. You get a lot less for free and a lot less even for smaller amounts of money now on Facebook if you want people to see the stuff that you're posting. But this is why we say, as always, please like, share, comment, rate on your iPod app. It all helps spread that kind of viral reach. So if you're enjoying what we do, if you're not enjoying, you want to slag us off, post it in a group, tell people, check in on the Carpcast page. If you haven't looked at it at the Carpcast page for a little while, then you're not going to see our feeds. So obviously, if you're listening to this, you do know that we are doing podcasts again. But it would help us greatly if you spread the word. We were looking at someone else that's helping us spread the word is naay.co.uk, which is Ben. Ben is a social media content creator. If you've got a company that you're looking for extra brand awareness. He does campaigns, YouTube, social media, produces the content, the video content. He'll make all the little flash things, the moving graphics. naay.co.uk. He's very experienced in the industry, and as a keen angler, he's looking to get involved with fishing companies. Some of the quality he's doing on YouTube for other clients is incredible. Mark and I are into one of them, an ex-Marine that's doing writing books and doing survival courses and fitness courses and all that sort of stuff. You were thinking about doing something similar, weren't you, Mark, to maybe follow your ice mile journey?
It's, just giving away what I'd call it there. It has been on my mind. There is ice mile footage on YouTube. It's usually just people's swims, but the ice mile is so much more than just a swim. It is a journey that you don't just swim a mile and then think, I'll do it in the cold. It doesn't work like that. It literally is a journey of 3, 4 or more years for each swimmer.
Training, to get your body used to that cold. Yeah,
training, the acclimatisation, just the swimming, and this, like a lot of things, like a lot of, skills, swimming freestyle, front crawl, once you take that dive in, pun intended, it's actually quite technical, getting your stroke efficient so you can swim as fast as possible using a minimal amount of energy. And
yeah, excellent. I'm maybe you'll get better if you do that YouTube channel. Maybe Ben can help you out. But I've got his website up at the minute now, naay.co.uk, and it's actually extremely impressive, the flashing graphics. But I'm going to have to turn it off because it's got a lot of strobe effects on it, and it's starting to hurt my eyes. But yeah, check out Ben if you want to, develop a campaign for any sort of social media or YouTube ads. And Ben's going to be helping us with the Carp Cast to get the word out there as well. So naay.co.uk, and also if you want to help support the Carp Cast, I am going to set Patreon up this week. It's on my job list right in front of me here on the table. But we've got a few ideas for what we're going to do. Mark and I are both going to learn this video content that we've spoke quite a lot about this episode, and we're going to be putting up some on the normal podcast and some behind the Patreon paywall as kind of a bonus for people that want to support the Carp Cast. If you enjoy what we do, want to support financially, then there will be a Patreon of different levels for you to do that. The top level, if you join the top level for a set period of time, then you will earn a session with Mark or myself during the course of a year. You'll be able to choose one, or maybe even both of us get down there one of the nice day tickets somewhere, or we'll come to your lake or whatever. But that will be for the top subscribers on our Patreon, amongst lots of other benefits such as Mark and I's video content. In the short term, if you'd like to support the Carp Cast and win a chance to fish with Mark and myself, and a Nash Titan T1 bivvy and a session bait package, camo T1 bivvy, then you get yourself over to carpcirclegiveaways.com, carpcirclegiveaways.com for £7 there, and you can buy as many tickets as you like, which will give you more chance when we draw the name to see, and you will win that thousands of pounds worth of prizes. And also we're going to have a film crew there with us, Jamie Bellhouse from Brother Carp, who was on episode 101, I believe, talking about his journey in angling filming. Jamie's going to come and film it, media content for us, and you will get a copy of it for yourself. So you'll get 2 days fishing, everything paid for, tickets and everything, with Mark and myself. You will go on with a brand new bivvy, your bait will be paid for, and you'll have a copy of it all on video for the price of £7. Or again, you can buy as many tickets as you want. If you really want to fish with Mark and myself, buy a few, and that greatly increases your chances of winning. carpcirclegiveaways.com. I had an interesting chat with Simon Pitt this week. Simon hosts the Thinking Tackle podcast at Korda. I said on an earlier podcast I had a 5-hour conversation with him on the phone recently, and I find him such an interesting guy. We clicked on a lot of things, so I thought, why not get him on our podcast and have a little talk about his sort of background and history. It seems like an odd one. There's not absolutely tons of fishing chat in there. It's a bit of a philosophical discussion about all sorts and his life journey, so I hope you enjoy it.
Feels like I'm in love.
would like to welcome to the Carp Cast. It's the Thinking Tackle, what do you call it? The Thinking Tackle podcast host, Mr. Simon Pitt. How are we today, Simon?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on the show. It's nice to be on the other side.
Yeah. So we did a bit of a chat for the Korda one the other day. I think we're going to do a longer one at some point, aren't we? And we had a 4.5 hour conversation. I think the first time we spoke properly, where we covered everything from yoga to aliens.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think your audience would make of that?
I feel like we should have recorded it. You know, there was quite a lot of stuff going through. We find that half our listeners, they want to hear about that sort of stuff. You know, there's only so many times, like fishing, it's not quite the elaborate sport, you know, we hope it is. There's 3 or 4 rigs that kind of cover every situation, you know, and then you've got bottom bait fishing, zig fishing in the middle, and floater fishing on the top. Like, we cook nice food, we all have the same sort of equipment. Like, there's only so much you can do, you know. It's very hard, especially in this age of content creation. It's very hard to kind of, you know, elaborate too much on that.
It's really difficult. I mean, I guess that's the struggle a little bit, isn't it, with doing these shows? It's trying to find the guests that are going to elaborate a little bit more and not cover the same stuff. And you know, I was saying that there's 3 different types of guests that we've come across. We've got the interviewees who are good at answering questions. We've got the talkers, and we've got the good conversationalists. And I think from a podcaster's point of view, you prefer people that like a conversation. It's just more free flowing, isn't it? And especially talking to someone like Frank. We just spoke to Frank earlier, and as you will know, you never know where he's going to go next.
Yeah, we love those conversations. I've had many a long conversation with Frank, you know, on the bank and on the podcast and stuff. And he's people like him are just a pleasure, aren't they? They throw in the funnies every now and again. They've got the knowledge in their head, the backup. You know, they can back it up. So you know, it can go in any direction. I always wanted a format that can. You know, facilitate that. Whereas your job's a different one. It's a lot more professional than our setup, where it's pretty much for fun. Even though, you know, we do try and monetize it now, but yours is a purpose-built studio. I mean, tell us a bit about it. How did you get the job, first of all?
How did I get the job? Well, I was only supposed to be here for 4 months, right? So I'd been to California and. In the summer of 2018, and I was walking. I don't know if you've ever seen the film Wild or not. It's a Reese Witherspoon film. She walks.
No, I haven't seen it, but just be careful. You're banging a lot on the table. There's a lot of noise coming through.
Yeah, this table. We always get complaints about this table. It's like, when are you going to change the table?
Yeah.
So I walked. I was walking across California in 2018. Got back from that trip, and I didn't know what to do work-wise. And I ended up on the lake fishing next to Damo. Yeah. And I was talking to Damo about how I wanted to go off and work on super yachts or do something different, not do a conventional kind of conventional job. And Damo offered me a job at Korda for 4 months. And I thought, well, I'll do that for 4 months and then I'll go off and do something else. And after 4 months or so, he said, well, how about you stay here and you work for the company full time? And I thought, well, how's this going to work? And he mentioned these normal jobs, and then he mentioned podcasting. And Dovey had been on about it for ages, about the company getting into podcasting more seriously. He's a bit like you. He studies the stats and everything. It's like, we need to be doing a podcast. Korda had initially done a podcast a few years previous, but it was like one of these standard on the bank sort of shows, you know, similar to Baitworks one. So when Damo mentioned podcasting, my ears pricked up, because like you, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I had a meeting with Dovey and Damo, and I said, well, look, if we're going to do a podcast, we need to do this in a studio and do it like Rogan, basically. So we went from there. We kept it secret, really. We didn't really tell too many people that we were going to do it. In the meantime, Damo mentioned to me that Toby, who's the producer of this podcast, was doing a journalism degree, and that he might be a useful person to speak to about doing these shows. So I went out to Liverpool, where he was studying, And we spent the whole afternoon just talking about podcasting and what our vision was for what was to be the Thinking Tackle podcast. And so our vision is pretty much as it is now. You know, we were getting guests. We wanted guests that weren't just necessarily from carp fishing. We wanted a different genre of guests as well. Like we've had Adrian Smith and people like that on the show. So we wanted it to go a little bit more than just carp fishing, but we wanted it to be, you know, quite biographical as well. And we went from then, and setting up the studio and everything. I mean, we had to learn everything from scratch, Jamie. I mean, I'm not a technophobe like you. I didn't know anything about this stuff. So
Toby, I'm presuming from his email when he's emailed me, he's Damien's son. Is that right?
Yeah, he's Damo's son.
So he's doing all the producing and sort of the behind the scenes stuff, help with the equipment and everything. And I guess it helps if he's doing a journalism degree. You know, there'll be. I guess, does podcasting come under that? Is there a module or something?
Yeah, I mean, he'd done a module in podcasting, so that was useful. And Toby's a good...
He knows more than every podcaster in the UK, every fishing podcaster, including me.
Well, he's got a first honours degree now as well. So
fantastic.
Toby went full-time last year on the podcast. And he's not just a producer. I mean, we pretty much write the shows together, and everything is... It's a real team effort, you know. So our first show, Jamie, though, so we'd spent the whole summer rehearsing, practicing in this studio, and we wanted to get Danny on. Danny had to be the first guest because it was, you know, it's Korda. And this was in August. Danny comes into the office one day because we don't see Danny very often. So he sort of flitters in and out of the office. So he comes in, and I said to Dan, can you do a podcast next month? And he said, no, I'm fishing. He said, but I can do it this afternoon. So the first Thinking Tackle podcast we put out, that first one with Danny, I had about 1 hour's preparation, and we just went in there and recorded it.
Fantastic. I guess it's a skill in itself. You've done some training, kind of interview techniques and stuff like that, haven't you? Have you done courses or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, Korda have put me through some courses, but as we talked about as well, I think my best training has been through therapy, and I've trained as a psychotherapist. So, you know, subconsciously, you know how to talk to people, don't you? And
I'm interested in that side of your life. I know we've already spoke about this, but the listeners don't know, so we shouldn't really gloss over it. But, you know, something that our listeners will be aware of. I've become interested in psychotherapy, psychology, and everything associated with it for quite a few years now. You know, consuming pretty much everything I can to do with it, hundreds of hours of lectures and stuff. So to be talking to somebody that's officially trained in that, you know, is I enjoy it. You know, it's so. I mean, have you actually, you know, worked in a practice? You've had clients, what do you call them? Clients, customers?
Yeah, it's always a funny one, that, isn't it? What are they, a client or a customer? Yeah, I've worked with people for a year or so doing that. Do you know what I found the problem with it was that people get a little bit too... This is probably my advantage on the podcast, that I find that people can open up to me quite well. So, but this, for me, in therapy was a bit of a problem. People get a little bit too close, and it takes a lot to be a therapist, you know. I mean, it takes a lot of, you think, oh, I have half a dozen clients a day, that'd be brilliant, and I'll make some good money from it. But it's an awful lot of effort, you know. It takes a lot of energy out of you. And for me, that was a little bit too much. And, you know, and I put it to one side, and I didn't necessarily expect to ever use those skills again until Korda came along. And then...
I think when you're on the path that you're meant to be on, like kind of all the things that you've done along the way, even if you didn't think they were relevant or connected, they kind of all lead to the place you're meant to be, I think, if we're going to get philosophical about it. But I'm the same. Some of the things I'm doing now, they're all kind of connected to things I've always done, even though my career's completely changed path numerous times. You know, all I thought I was ever going to be my entire life was a musician in a band. And after 7 or 8 years, sort of full time of that, it changed, and I had no idea what I was going to do. Obviously, I moved. You know, from the outside, it looks like a slight shift. I went into DJing and stuff, and And each time it's shifted along the way, it's kind of all, now I look back at it in retrospect, it's all kind of under the same big umbrella, you know, all contributing to things that I'm doing now. So I'm guessing that's the same for you, or what you're kind of getting at there.
Yeah, I guess what you're saying as well is you start to be able to when you get older and wiser as well, you start to be able to join all the bits together and start to make sense of everything that you've done previously, don't you? And I definitely get that. There's been periods in my life where not an awful lot has made sense, but looking back on it now, and the older you get, you can make perfect sense of it. The first time I met you, Jamie, I don't know if you remember, but I was on my mountaineering crusade then as well. You remember that?
Is this at Holborn?
Yeah.
So were you on a bike, were you?
No, I was in a car. I was visiting a client on.
And that's right, because you had the Carp Cast on when you drove up. Yeah, I met two people at that time on that lake, and one was when I had a hook in my thumb, and the other time must have been you, but I didn't know which one was which. That
was so bizarre. That was one of the, and especially as we're doing this type of thing like together now, that was so bizarre that day, because I've been listening to your podcast. I always listen to your podcasts. I still You are the pioneer of the carp fishing podcasts.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
And I really enjoy it. I love Mark as well. Yeah, I won't let your head get too big. But I drove into that part and I was listening to Derek Ritchie. I was listening to your Derek Ritchie podcast. And I walked down to the lake, and I don't know who you were fishing with, but it was a guy from Manchester.
Yeah, Roger Bacon.
Was it Roger?
Yeah,
right. Well, it was funny, right, because I came down and I stuck my head around the side of the chalet and I saw a set of rods and I thought they look like experienced carp anglers. So it was only for that I walked down to the edge of the lake and got talking to Roger, and then you popped out of the chalet and I thought, you are joking me. This is ridiculous. I've just been listening to you on the podcast. But then, so I was fishing quite a lot the previous year, but I want to climb Mount Everest. That was what I was setting out to do. So that year, 2016, I was doing a lot of mountaineering stuff. And later on that year, I went to Kazakhstan and climbed a 7,100 meter mountain. And I was more into that sort of thing. And I mean, how all this links up to carp fishing, I don't know, but
you've had quite a colourful life, I think. Maybe we can talk about stuff that people on I don't know if you've spoke about this at length on the Korda podcast. I'm presuming not, because they're very stringent with carp fishing content, aren't they? Whereas we're not so. But I like to get behind the person a little bit. So, there's a few things that we've spoke about and a few conversations we've had over the last few weeks, but you've travelled a lot. As I said, you've wanted to do the mountaineering thing. You've been or are a model. Just give us a bit of the background of the stuff. 5 things people wouldn't probably guess about you. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, so again, listening to Jerry Hammond on your podcast, and Jerry was talking about being an extra, a stand-in. Well, I've done that as well. So I started off doing that quite a few years ago now, and I ended up getting into being a body double for actors. And so I'd done that for a while. But then some of these actors that I was kind of doubling for, I found out that they were models, and you can earn a lot more money being a model than you can being a double for somebody. So
yeah.
I'm still with 2 modelling agencies. This is so embarrassing. I'm still with 2 modelling agencies now, but I'm probably the most underworked model in the UK at the moment. So, but I guess that sort of thing as well helped towards being in front of the camera and stuff like that, And the first modelling shoots you do, I mean, it's absolutely terrifying. I've got like stress rashes on my neck and everything from so I again, if you're joining all the bits together, you'd say, well, like I say, I guess that's helped in some way towards doing this as well. In some roundabout sort of way.
So how old are you? You're similar age to me, I'm guessing.
45.
45, yeah. Oh, a little bit younger, I can see in there.
Can you? You can tell a little bit. I don't know, aging fast.
I've got a face for radio. You've got a face for modelling. Yeah, so let's go back to to what we were talking about, your kind of background, things that people wouldn't necessarily know about you. So we've got the modelling.
Yeah, I think through modelling as well, because you were mentioned as well that your dad's into his acting and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think for me, right, I don't know about you, but there was a catalyst in my life. My dad dying in 2012 really made a difference to my life. I mean, it was a real wake-up call, because my girlfriend at the time, my dad had cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer. My girlfriend was diagnosed at the same time. And unfortunately, my dad didn't make it, but my girlfriend did. But we ended up splitting up. And then it just changed my whole outlook on life. And I just wanted I wanted to try everything that I hadn't done previously. And I think there is, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a natural talker, but there is a side that you want to entertain people and talk to people. So I got into drama stuff as well, everything. I've done music as well, Jamie, like you. You know, yeah. we've got an interest in music. I was listening to you actually the other day talking about AC/DC, and I was listening to Brian Johnson actually. Have you heard the story? Are we going off on a bit of a tangent here?
Go anywhere you like, pal.
Did you hear his audition for AC/DC when Bon Scott died?
Yeah.
Brian Johnson got a call to say, can you audition for a band? And he said, well, what's the name of the band? And they said, we can't tell you. And he said, you want me to come and do an audition, but you're not going to tell me the name of the band. And in the end, they said, right, well, we'll tell you that the first word is A and the last word is C. Yeah. and he went, right, AC/DC. So he said at the time he was living with his parents. He'd opened a garage because he didn't think his music career was going to go anywhere. And he had to drive down to London. And he said, well, while I'm in London, I'll do some music jingles at a radio station first. So then when he does his jingles, he comes in to do the audition for AC/DC, and they're just waiting there for like hours for him. They didn't even think he was going to turn up.
No
he
way.
Turns up in the studio, they give him a bottle of Newcastle Brown, do a few songs with him. And they were just blown away by him. And he said, right, oh, thank you very much, guys. I'm off. And they said, where are you going? And he said, I'm going back to Newcastle. I've got to open up the shop in the morning. And they said, no, you've got the job. and then he said as well, this was on Howard Stern. It's a brilliant interview. And then he said, the first song he ever recorded with AC/DC was Shook Me All Night Long. Just, unbelievable. But
yeah, I mean, I was a Bon Scott fan, you know, that didn't quite, even though he's a Geordie, and I do like the Geordies generally, but nobody could replace Bon Scott for me. I don't think, but yeah, he's good. He fits in pretty well. Kind of random how they picked an English guy in it for but anyone AC/DC Australian for those that don't know.
Australia with the Scottish connection, and then the bass player as well, isn't it? Is it Cliff? What's his name? What's the bass player's name?
It was Angus's brother, wasn't it? Oh no, that was that was Malcolm, the guitarist, wasn't it?
Yeah, Malcolm Angus. Yeah.
What was he called? No, Cliff was Metallica. One
Cliff
who died,
Burton, wasn't it? Yeah.
Cliff Burton. Yeah, he went. What a way to die for those that don't know. I mean, I know this already, but Simon and I both have an interest in sort of 80s, 90s rock music. Being a similar age, we were kind of into that. And you were a guitarist as well, I believe.
A bassist. So Cliff Burton, he was an unbelievable bass player.
Yeah. So the story was Metallica's first. Was it their first tour? Was it Master of Puppets? No, they'd done a couple of albums, I think. Yeah, they'd done a couple of albums, and the rumor was that the tour bus driver was drunk. I think that was the rumor, wasn't it? But he lost it on a bend in France, and Cliff Burton ended up going through one of the top windows of the coach, and I think the coach rolled over on him, didn't it? I think
it did. Did you hear that him and Lars Ulrich, the drummer, they'd done a toss for that bunk, and Lars lost the toss. And,
yes, I've seen Lars talk about that recently, actually.
Yeah. God, you got to live with that for the rest of your life as well. But yeah. But we do like our rock music as well, and like I say, so we like our music, but.
So how obviously one of my heroes, Adrian Smith, was on the podcast. I know he's notorious for being quite a shy guy.
That was really weird, Jamie, right? So that week that I came back from California, I met the guys. I fish on Save, so I met the guys. We like going out for a drink and a lunch and everything like that. So I met up with the guys. We went to the pub and everything. Then we're going to Harefield Tackle, and I go in there with a friend, and he starts chatting to this guy, and I look round. I think that's Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden, and then I get talking to him, and I felt really like familiar with him. Like he's a shy guy, but really easy to talk to. Fast forward, 6 months. I'm here. We're going to do a podcast. The first person I want on the podcast is Adrian Smith. He is shy, and normally with the shows as well, we get a chance to meet the guests before. So, because I don't know a lot of these people. So I prep before we do the shows, but Adrian, he's too busy for that. So he wanted to do a Zoom podcast with us, and it's like he'd agreed to come on the show. We've been speaking to his management company for about a year. We don't pay them, by the way. None of our guests are paid to come on the show. And he agreed to do it when his book came out, but we were like wrangling for ages, and it was a real job to convince him to come into the studio and do the show. But bloody hell, I mean, he's my ultimate guest,
Yeah, and I remember you saying that it was. He doesn't need to be there, does he? Let's be honest. The guy was a millionaire in the 80s. He's certainly not there for the money. It did surprise me the type of person he is. Sorry, dog's trying to jump up if you can hear the noise. The type of person that he is. That he's that he doesn't, considering he performs for a living in front of tens of millions of people over the years. He doesn't really like the public attention, does he? He loves his fishing, I know that. And but then he's written a book, Monsters of River Rock, and presumably his management company or whoever's produced the book, they want him to promote it because somebody's put some money behind it. He doesn't necessarily. I mean, did you ask him what was his motivation for doing a book about the fishing side of his life?
I mean, he is just an absolutely passionate angler. Since he left Iron Maiden, I think in '89, and you need to read the book, Monsters of River and Rock. But I mean, he was doing a bit of fishing in the '80s. There's a story about him fishing with the scorpions and that stuff. But he hadn't done an awful lot of fishing until he left the band till he left the band. And then I think it was like rehabilitation for him, and he became an obsessive angler and all sorts of different fishing. He fishes wherever Iron Maiden go around the world. You've got like Bruce Dickinson, who's an ex-fencer, and they've all got these like well-known he is a passionate angler, and I think he wanted to write the book out of a genuine love for going fishing. And I mean, he's quite a solitary angler. He doesn't go out fishing. I don't think he does an awful lot of fishing with other people. He keeps himself to himself, but he does a lot of fishing. And all sorts as well, from barbel to carp fishing. He's on some nice syndicate lakes in the Colne Valley.
I bet he is.
Yeah.
Where does he live, roughly, like town-wise?
He lives in a Harefield area.
Right,
so
okay.
Gerrard's Cross area. But okay. So but actually getting him on the show was amazing. But yeah, I mean, he didn't have to do it. I got to thank Julian Cundiff, because it was Jules in the end that actually came through, because I had resigned myself to the fact I was going to have to do a Zoom podcast with him. And I thought, I want him sat here in the studio. And Jules said, look, leave it to me. And you know what Jules is like. He sort of he made some magic there and got him on the show for us. So.
I had pestered Jules myself to try and initiate Adrian to come on the Carp Cast, but obviously the power of Korda, you've got a lot more to offer, Jules, than I have. I would guess, but that is the way of the world. Probably the biggest name that every podcast would like on. Can you see it ever happening? Has anything ever moved that way? But Terry Hearn.
We haven't moved that close. Every time we put requests out for a podcast, obviously it's Terry, isn't it? And there's a few connections here at work with him, but Terry's his own man. I don't know him, right? I don't know him. I've fished on a lake with him a few times. He certainly doesn't know me. But I get the impression that he's his own man now, and he can pick and choose what he wants to do, and fair play to him. I mean, if he doesn't, why does he want to come in here and do a podcast? We were hoping that when that book came out, the new book came out, that would entice him to do it, but it hasn't, and we've really tried. We've really tried, like you have.
I have over the years. Not only that, for the Northern Angling Show, we've even got to the point where we've offered to have him picked up by helicopter from his house, so he doesn't have to drive up north. We'll pay for a helicopter, pick him up from his front door, and drop him off at the show and take him home again. And even that won't swing it. You know, he's like you said, he's comfortable where he is. He does have that very Southern mentality. You know, I've known Terry personally, not for a lot of years now, but I used to, and you know, he has come up to Manchester for us in the early days. He came and did our very first ever at Cresta Court Hotel in Altrincham, the Manchester Carp meeting, which was like the predecessor of the Northern Angling Show, like a slideshow, you know, in a hotel. Terry came up with Nick Hellier, did the very first one for us. I think we had Dave Lane the second time, and Frank, funnily enough, the third time. Then nothing for a few years, a Northern Angling Show. But, you know, I've fished on the same lakes as Terry. We had each other's phone numbers. We would talk by phone sometimes, but it's 15 years ago. Don't really have that contact now, but he did say he would do episode 100 for us, and he did say he promised to do the NAS through Jules again, who was kind of a bit of a go-between, and another of Terry's friends that I know, Ev. Shout out to Ev, who's in Terry's first book. Yeah. He said he would come and do the show when his book was out, but obviously the year his book comes out, there's no shows. No. So it's just like, wow.
Have you ever thought, Jamie, what you'd talk to him about? Because he's written about so much, and how good a guest do you think he would be?
Brilliant. You've just got to get him talking about any story. He's just so passionate. He just goes into like another little mode, and he's like, I went down here and it was all carpy, and I got my little carp cigarette and I smoked a joint. Although he never actually says that.
So if you were into no, so if you were interviewing him, would you take a back seat and let Tal sort of take over a little bit?
Yeah. I think with good storytellers, like the easiest interviews, and you'll probably know this, are the ones where you don't actually have to talk. You're not, because you know what it's like as an interviewing technique. If it's somebody you don't know loads about, or they're a little bit dry or uncomfortable or slightly nervous or whatever, you can't really listen to what they're saying, because you're kind of thinking when the conversation stops, I'm going to have to keep it going. So you don't always pay attention to what they're saying, or sometimes you can miss the point where they stop. And I don't know, you've done courses in this stuff, so maybe there's techniques to not do this. Maybe just prepare and make notes first.
I don't know. Well, I do make notes. And I have a rough schedule, but I don't write questions or anything like that down. I've got a schedule to the show, and we loosely follow it. I mean, the best ones are someone like Dan. You know, Dan will just talk. Dan will make anybody's podcast sound absolutely, amazing. But my reoccurring nightmare with doing a podcast is that somebody is talking like Danny, and then he will just stop talking. And that point that you were talking about, where it's like, shit, I don't know what to say next.
You're not actually listening because you're thinking about where am I going to go here.
It hasn't happened so far, but I don't know about you, but when you're in that situation, what I kind of do is just throw a quick sentence in of any old kind of language that doesn't really make any sense. But when I watch it back, no, you don't actually notice it. So I do a quick fill in, get my head together, and then think, right, what am I going to say now? But most of the guests are great. I've had a few challenging ones, but I quite like the challenging ones as well.
Go on, name names.
No, I would say that Luke Stevenson was a challenging one, but Luke is a phenomenal carp angler, and everybody here wanted Luke to come on and do a podcast and reveal all, because I don't know, do you know Luke very well?
I don't know, and I've never heard the name, so you've just mentioned it now. Shows how out of date I am. Is he on the Korda books sort of thing? He's
on the Korda books, but Luke is a very, very cool guy. So he's got a way of like not looking too Korderized, and just goes about his fishing. He's a cool guy. He's a really cool guy, and he's very, very modest. He doesn't like he doesn't like shouting about stuff. And but once you get talking to him, you're going to get some really, really good information. He's not a storyteller, but you'll get some really, really good information out of him. And it was a little bit challenging. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but I really, really enjoyed having him on the show. It was like he was nervous. He was nervous, and he was a bit self-conscious. But I felt like, I know this is going to sound like a cliche, but I felt like quite a warmth from him as well, and it was cool. But nervous people, Jamie, you'll be amazed. Some of our most well-known guests, Simon Scott, very, very nervous before he started.
I guess there's something about, because we don't have anybody in the studio, it's always been over the phone or Zoom or something similar. So we've like, people are in their own comfort zone, you know, they're on the lake, in the bivvy, in their house, or, you know, wherever they most feel comfortable. So do you find that you've done both Zoom and in the studio now? Do you find like there's a more intimate, closer sort of experience by being in that same room, and in turn, does that make people a little bit more nervous, maybe?
I think when they first come into the studio, it's nerve-wracking. You've got all the lights in here. It's well, you're going to see, because you'll be in here soon, hopefully. Yeah. So it's quite a professional setup. But once they get talking, they're absolutely fine. It's amazing, right? When Simon Scott comes on, and Simon is brilliant in front of the camera anyway. And he wanted to rehearse at the start of the show. He was talking about these frangible teeth that this was a gift that he brought him, and he was rehearsing it. And I could see that Simon was nervous. As soon as I said, Simon Scott, welcome to the podcast, it's like, boom, they're gone. And pretty much all the guests are like that. The Zoom stuff it's easier for them, but I don't know about you, just don't get that intimacy. It's like having you on the show. Like, we were going to do this, you know, the two of us, but on a Korda podcast, and it's like, it won't work. You need to be in the studio. You talk. You've got so much to say, and you need that energy between the two people to get the best out of them.
Yeah, I've always done it this way, so I don't know any different. But I can imagine people feeling more like they're in, you know, like going into a TV studio. I in fact, speaking about Terry, when we were on Yateley Car Park, so you can hear all sorts of noise now. The dog wants to go out, the heating's just kicked in, so you can hear the boiler. I've got a part-time studio downstairs because the dogs have puppies, so I'm basically on babysitting duty. Yeah, so obviously talking with Terry Hernell when we were fishing on the same lake together, I remember him being invited to do tight lines, which he'd done, you know, a number of times, and he was, I mean, it was that era on Yateley where everybody smoked weed that year. Now, I've heard later years that that there was none of that, you know, but there definitely was. You know, there's people on there called Skunk Darren, you know,
never recovered.
No, it was. Although I've shout out to Darren Emberson, I've been chatting with him a little bit on the old school Yateley group at the time. Lots of legends. He's a real character. That was the thing I liked about Yateley. There was a lot. It was about the people, you know. There was a lot of unique characters on there, and obviously Terry was famous for fishing there years before, you know, in his first book, and then he came back to try and catch the couple. It just happened to be the year Daryl was on there. I know you've had Daryl on your show last week. Although I don't know if he spoke about Yateley much, but I know he is doing Yateley on his Carp Fix stuff this week. He's been hyping that a lot. But I remember Terry getting the call, and he tried. I stood next to him when he got the phone call, and he tried everything he could to get out of doing it. And when he put the phone down, he went, "It's just," he said, "as soon as I leave the lake, it's like I'm in a different place." Like, he went, never forget what he said. He went, "It's hard enough going to Tesco's in the afternoon." So basically, there was a bit of a routine on there. Everybody reeled in. Like, the last kind of time you thought you would get a bite, it was like 10, 11 in the morning. Probably 11 was last knocking. So it was a bit of a routine where everybody reeled in. They walked around the lake and sat drinking tea and smoking weed in everyone else's swims. And chatting, find out what's going on, then absolutely wasted. You'd stumble up to the Tesco's garage just up the road. There was a half decent sort of supermarket, and it was at the point where everyone was so kind of spaced out, like you were walking past each other in the aisles because there was always 3-4 of you in there at any one time because everybody had the same routine. And you wouldn't even make eye contact with each other. You'd have head down, you'd like get round till you got back to the lake, and then you were like back to normal. You're like, that was weird. I didn't like that, But shows how kind of spaced in that Yateley bubble we all were. And then when Terry got that call and he went, it's hard enough going to Tesco's in the afternoons, let alone walking into a studio with lights and people talking to you and God knows what. He did do it though. In fact, there's a story. I don't know if Darryl tells this story quite the same way as I do. Dog's just jumped on my knee. So what happened when Darryl had those first 3 fish out of Yateley? I'd been baiting this swim called the Bars. It hadn't done the fish for 2 years, and me travelling from up north and everyone else being fairly local and having more time than me, I was like, I've got to swing it in my favour somehow. So I baited this Bars swim for 2 weeks. Anyway, I was about to fish it, and my plan was to fish it that week, and I'd walked into the bar, stood and looked out, and the curly was free, which was next door to me. Now that year I was on, there was 9 full timers. So the top night, and they were there on a Saturday, ready to take the swim off the person on the Sunday. They'd fish till the Friday, pull off, let the weekenders come on, back on the Saturday to reserve the swim for the Sunday. So what basically happened is all 9 of them kept the same swim every week. They kind of each didn't interfere with the other guy. Terry was in Trumptons, he had that swim every week. Anyway, whoever it was who fished the curly every week must have had a week off. So I've gone, fuck me, the curly's free, like I've got to go in there. But I've been baiting the bars and I want to go in the bars. I stood in the bars, and they're actually next door to each other, although they fish different bits of water. And I stood in the bars, turned round. Well, you had to like walk out on a path, so you couldn't see between the swims when you were walking from one swim to the other. It was all overgrown. I've gone back between the 2 swims, and I can see Terry opposite on Trumptons. Anyway, I've ended up going, I might not ever get a chance to get in the curly this year, so I'll go in the curly. Half an hour later, while I'm setting up, Terry Earns in the bars. I'm like, hey, you fish Trumptons? You know what I mean? What are you doing over here? And he was like, I thought you'd seen it. He said, I thought you'd gone to get your gear. Like that last time, he said, every time you turned your back in the bars, one stuck its head out right in front of you. And he said, you'd literally just turn your back on it every time. And then you walked into the curly, and then nothing happened. You go into the bars. As you left the bars, one had not. He said the third one, he said, just as you were turning round, it stuck its head out. So I thought you'd seen it because you then went to your car to get your gear. But then you set up in the curly. He went, I had to go in here. I couldn't do anything about it. Anyway, this is the day the tight lines thing happened, and he's like, I can't do that. He did ended up going. Anyway, he didn't tell me. 6 a.m. the next morning, I'm like, woke up, first light, started to look at the lake. Darryl's in the next door swim. Bear in mind, Terry's only moved in there the night before. Darryl's next door. And I'm like, what's going on? He went, I've seen Terry in the car park. Said he's seen a load of fish in here. Anyway, that's when Darryl had the 3 mirrors out of there all over the 2 weeks baiting that I'd done. I don't know if he's ever acknowledged that in the book. Everyone else.
No. We talked about that on the podcast.
Ah, right. Okay.
But he didn't mention your name, Jamie.
Yeah, it was me that had baited it for 2 weeks.
Oh, got it. But like you say, that curly swim, that used to do a lot of fish as well, didn't it? So, well, a lot of fish.
They all did 2-3 fish a year, all of them. There was only 9 fish in there that got caught once or twice a year. So, most of the swims did a couple of fish a year. But the bars hadn't done us fish for 2 years. I think Darryl had 5 of his 7 fish out of there over the next few. Obviously, I couldn't get in the swim then. Darryl started, because Darryl's the master at it. He'll just take all the time off work he needs to. He'll pull sick. He's actually done that twice on me over the years. He did it on St Ives as well. I asked him fishing the swim, and he had a 3-week holiday coming up, so he took another week off sick just to beat me. I was in the swim seeing fish. He was on the other side of the lake on his last morning, and he wasn't coming back for a week and a half. And then he had like a 3-week session, and I rang him up in the morning. I was like, have you seen them? He's like, he couldn't see him from where he was on the other side of the lake. There was like an island in the way. And I thought it was just doing the friendly thing. We were pretty close in them days, and the fish he didn't see him. I seen about 50 shows in the morning. I'd got up for the toilet at 4 in the morning, or I'd had a bream or something. I could hear them lopping out one after the other. There was only 18 fish in that lake, so it was significant. You've seen fish, lumping out one after the other. He hadn't seen any of them. He was about to go home and not come back to the lake for nearly 2 weeks. Then he had a 3-week session.
Did you have to be a bit ruthless on there, though?
I'm not that ruthless, No,
nor am I. I go on lakes where we're all a happy family and like everyone gets on with each other. But I always wanted to fish there. I nearly fished there in 91 Match Lake, and then I can't remember why. And it just before I knew it, time passed by and never got the chance to fish there. But you did get, there was a lot of camaraderie on there, wasn't there? So
there was that era. I fished it. It was difficult for me living so far away, and they brought the 48-hour rule in after that year. That's how bad it was.
Was that a good rule? Did you agree with that?
Not when you're driving 4.5 hours. It's not. You're doing 9 hours driving for 48 hours fishing. I couldn't get my head around it. Although, what it meant was you probably got 24 of your 48 in a much better swim than I ever got in during the year that I fished there. So it probably was better, but mentally for me, who like doing 3-4 night sessions, it was no good.
And the swim changing as well, and the swim, swapping swims with each other. Did that still carry on, even though it was a 48-hour rule?
Well, everyone kept their own swim. No, it basically put paid to the full timers. It probably was a better year. The fish were distributed more evenly. But that year that I fished on there, it wasn't rocket science. As to you could predict what fish was coming from where, because single scaleds, for instance, start showing in front of the curly. Everybody would see it because you've got 10 of the country's best anglers on there at the time. Everybody watching like a hawk. It's a bit of a goldfish bowl anyway. And then a week later, single would get caught out the curly. Like it's not rocket science. It's just who was in there. So.
You found the fish were quite... We need to do this on our own podcast, don't we? Because I'm going to talk to you about all this stuff. But you never get fed up with the Yateley stories either, do you? Just that... You just create that image in your mind of that lake and those anglers and the whole atmosphere to it.
Definitely for our generation. You work with Korda. You have a lot of the younger up and coming anglers that I probably haven't even heard of. Like how much do you think like all this history, places like Yateley? Do the new generation even know that much about Terry Hearn?
No, I don't know. Like I say, I know when I was growing up, it was Yateley and it was Savvy, and because to learn, you had to buy books, and you just had to engross yourself more in it. You had to take more of an interest in history, and to be able to learn. So we naturally had to learn all this stuff, and we appreciated all of these lakes. But nowadays, I know that I've said to people where I fished before, and they haven't got a clue what it is or what the history is to the lake, And personally, for me, I find that quite sad because I've never been a hugely intensive, competitive angler, but I love the history of carp fishing and what made it in the first place and all these great venues. And
how long have you had a Savvy ticket?
I started fishing Savvy in 2011. I've been this would be my 8th year on the syndicate now.
And is there still like 2 rotors, Looney rotor, and what was the other one?
Well, I'm a toad. That's the best rotor, isn't it?
I only know from Hutch's books, but yeah.
The lake hasn't until HS2. If people don't know, the high-speed rail link, which is under construction at the moment, which is it's changed the lake in the last year. It's seriously changed the lake. But up until then, the tradition of the lake, the friendship, the camaraderie, the absolute atmosphere when you go on that place, it's like it really does make the hairs on. It's got an atmosphere. And I remember the first time I fished there on days. I mentioned this to Damo on his podcast, but you get your season ticket. You got to fish there on days first, so you get your season ticket. As soon as we got our season ticket, we wanted to get up there the day we got our season ticket to have a walk around. But it was late in the evening. It was a Friday evening, and you got to be off by 9 o'clock. And we turned up there about 7, and it was the first week of the season, and it was like you had this like light rain flat calm falling on the lake. You go in through those green gates. You open up those green gates for the first time into the day ticket car park, and you walk down the road bank. And I remember this day angler walking up towards me, and he starts talking to me, and I look to my left, and I just look out. It's like looking at the Himalayas for me. It's like looking out to and just looking into the cottage bay and thinking, that looks too beautiful to cast a lead into. It just looks too nice. And then I become obsessed with there. I mean, it's like that's what I'm like. A bit like yourself. Once you've got a goal or a motivation to do something, it's like, I have got to fish this lake properly. I've got to be sat in that swim with that vista in front of me, with those rods out. And it was like, and it wasn't the fish, it's the whole atmosphere with the place. And it doesn't change. Even now, I mean, HS2 has changed. You know, the lake is in some place it's not recognisable at the moment. But
so what are they actually doing? Have they started the work then? You know, is there noise? Is there diggers? Is there like what's the state of play at the minute?
It's the security on the gate. It's high security all the time. The trees. So they're putting a viaduct across the lake. So where the viaduct is now, they've cleared all the trees out. So normally you go in there, you can't even see the lake. When you drive in there, you can't see it. The car park, you're immersed. The lake is all around you. And but now you drive in there and you can, it's quite heartbreaking.
So what have they done? They've chopped all the trees down?
Chopped all the trees down, and now they're preparing to, they're still boring holes in there at the moment as well to, they need to find the right substrate to be able to put this viaduct in. And I don't want to speak out of turn with it, but I think at the moment they still haven't found a suitable kind of reinforcement to put these pillars into. But it's all cleared out and ready to go.
So they're going over the lake on a bridge, aren't they? Is that right?
They're going over the bridge on a. If you see advertisements for HS2, you'll see the train going along on this high viaduct over all these lakes. Well, one of those lakes is Save. It's 50 foot above the lake, and it cuts a small percentage of the North Bay off. It doesn't affect very much of the lake itself, but it just cuts across the North Bay and then over the road onto Korda Lake.
All right. At one point, I thought they were going to it was going to destroy the lake, like, you know, stop fishing on there and all that. But is that not going to be the case? Is there still going to be pretty much the rest of the lake left once it's all done?
The syndicate, the Lake's Safe, it's privately owned, and that was very well negotiated with through Parliament and everything. I mean, it's normally
did they try and buy the lake up? Did they try and put a
compulsory purchase? Yeah, but the owner fought to keep it, and
but they did try and compulsory purchase it.
Do you know? I wouldn't want to be sure on that, actually.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but they at the moment they own the part of the lake that they're building on, but the rest of the lake still remains owned by the original owner.
The owner will have had a hefty old compensation payout for that. Hefty. My friend, when they built the M40 around Banbury, I used to work in a recording studio there, Stargo Musical Services. When I was in a rock band when we were like 16, leaving school, we booked a studio to record a demo, and it was this place in Banbury. And the owner became, close friend, bit of a mentor. You know, he was in a famous band in the 70s, and he ended up managing us for years. I've lived and worked there in his studio. He ran Sound and Lighting shop in Banbury. I managed that for him for a year or two. I'm godfather to his kids. We came close after this, but anyway, when I first went there, the M40 wasn't built, and he lives in this it's a huge, beautiful building, the White Cottage it's called, in a little village called Nethercote. There's only like 5 houses in the village, and they're all like huge, really, really big, 10 bedroom, type sort of things if you used all the rooms as bedrooms. And when they put the motorway in, because it was a recording studio, he got fortunes, and I mean fortunes. They had to compensate him, and it was, the motorway's like 200 metres away. I mean, all these windows and stuff are soundproofed anyway for the recording studio, so you can't hear anything through it, but he got hundreds of thousands. So can you imagine what somebody who owns a lake, that they're building a, tranquil, fisherman, peace and quiet, that they're building a high-speed link over? He'll have been heavily compensated.
Well, I don't know. There was a panorama program out maybe 2 or 3 years ago about how they were compulsory purchasing all these properties, and the owners were being undercut quite a lot for the price of their properties. So it's a controversial subject. The guy that owns the land around Houston Station, the property developer there, he was hugely out of pocket. Hence, you got the protesters tunneling under there at the moment, haven't you? And it's a controversial project. When I first started fishing the lake, it was going to cost 35 billion, and now it's over 100 billion, and it just keeps rising.
Oh, I know, and I don't even want to get into government politics. What do they call it?
No, don't get me onto politics. It's
cronyism. Is it not some relative of Boris Johnson's that's got a lot of that 100-odd billion? I don't know. His father's been heavily compensated for his house compulsory purchase, whatever. Anyway. I'm not saying it's not no right or left debate. They are all feathering their own pockets. That's all politicians. This is not a left or right thing.
But I think the main thing is I think the lake is safe. It's got a fantastic owner who follows the tradition. As he's the most traditional person you meet when it comes to history, and so you've got no.
Has he always had the lake? This guy.
Since 1997. So
right, so prior to the Hutchie days was somebody different, but this guy's had it a long time.
Redlands owned it before then. I mean, so Redlands got hold of the lake. They owned the lake for years, and when they started the first rotor on there, they realised that there were some very big carp in there, and the first rotors were like an experiment to see what exactly was in the lake. So they approached the best carp anglers in the country and said, look, come and fish this lake. I mean, there were people like Mike Wilson and that fishing there, then, but they were keeping a lot under wraps. And then they started, and that was how the rotors started. And it's never changed. It's just continued as it was.
I've been asked to fish a couple of lakes over the years to find out what's in there, but it's the worst thing you can do. You give like a keen, hungry angler access to a lake that's not been fished that much before. He ain't going to tell you what's in there because he doesn't want to give up that a real special privilege, and all of a sudden have his idea of heaven ruined. But so what's in Save now?
There's still. I mean, I don't know if you know Mike Wilson's book where he's holding the lever on the cover. That fish is called the lagerfish. That's stood in the lake. That fish is probably about 70 years old. There's the originals. They're obviously they're going to start disappearing a little bit. They're getting old now.
Give us an idea. 40s and 50s. Like how many?
Well, there's one just under 60 in there, and there's probably been 5 different fish over 50.
Nice.
Good. There was a good head of 40-pound carp, a really good head of 40-pound carp, but they're getting older. But it's not just the size of the fish as well. When you catch one of those fish, it's like, especially when you're on days, right, Jamie, and and nobody catches anything on days. There's a few exceptions. Aaron Kopp is a phenomenal angler. Recently, he's done very well on days, but no one catches anything on days. So when you eventually you catch a Save carp, it's just unbelievable.
It's one of the few
on the podcast, Jamie? Yeah.
It's one of the few places I've loved to have fished that have never fished. Like it's just one of those special places, and it's in the top couple of exclusive waters I'd love to have fished ever in the UK. I think for me on there. It's the people. It's just that camaraderie. Our camaraderie is so.
I mean, I don't even do very much fishing now, and I get told all the time, "Don't you keep going on about Save?" And the reason I go on about Save because it's the only syndicate ticket I've got, so I can't talk about an awful lot of fishing at the moment. But I wouldn't to drop a ticket on there. You're going to be. It's like being disconnected from your family. It's like it's that close.
Yeah. Has there been a few people that just haven't fitted in, and what's it like for them on there?
That doesn't happen very often.
No.
That's the whole thing with running any type of syndicate. Like I was talking to Jerry Hammond the other day, and Jerry's got Brook Lake and he's got Carthagena. Yeah. So he's got luxury now of being able to get anglers. They have to fish on Brook Lake during the winter first as an initiation process, and I think that's a great way to be able to to run a syndicate, to be able to vet the anglers before they actually get on the syndicate, and it's the same on Save. Everybody that gets a syndicate ticket, they're vetted, and they're not. I mean, it's not just about how many 40-pound carp you've caught, or it's about it's like Korda. It's like working at Korda. The requirement for working at Korda is you've got to be able to fit in with people. You've got to be able to fit in and obviously work hard, but be a good people's person. And it is exactly the same on that lake as well. If you're not a character, it's very, very difficult. They're going to be listening to this, right?
I think you're safe after 8 years.
Oh yeah, but yeah. You like to say, I love fishing there. It's nowhere else.
It seems like an absolutely fantastic and obviously steeped in history. It's a shame it's going to change a little bit, but I guess once all the work's finished, are they talking years to build this thing though, like 5-10 years sort of thing?
They're talking about 5 years on site before they're finished. And I mean, I was driving down the motorway today to work, the M4. And I mean, the landscaping work that they've done there in a short period of time, you think, wow, that looks amazing. That looks beautiful. Yeah. And it's just appeared out of nowhere. And I know that the lake will, it will revert back to that and it will be back to normal again. But you'll be watching trains go over at 200 miles an hour. But
yeah, it's some of the best fisheries in the country, though. You're listening to planes from Heathrow or whatever like that. It's you're lucky to have a lake around London, and have some tranquility. At the end of the day, it's all that Colne Valley. It's suburbs, feeders of London. I lived around there myself for a few years, Watford, and right. We used to go fishing on the barbel fishing at Rickmansworth and round there. It's all that kind of Colne Valley area. Is the horse and barge still a thing? Was it open until COVID?
It's closed at the moment. It was actually closed about a year ago, but it's still. But it's a bit more of it's more of a restaurant now than back in the day, wasn't it? It was like a nightclub. People would be parked all the way up Moorfield Road. There'd be women in there taking women back to the swims and everything. It was like it's a little bit more refined nowadays. It did close about a year or so ago, and then someone else seems to keep buying it, and it keeps changing hands. It's called the Bear on the Barge now.
Okay.
Which is a bloody shame, wasn't it? Because why'd you change the name of that? It's the most legendary pub in carp fishing. But
yeah, well, a lot of English pubs have got a history with the horses, I guess, back from 100 years ago. I mean, the pub tradition, it's kind of dying out in the UK now, isn't it? I think most pubs in any sort of scenic area are exactly what you just described. They're kind of gastro pubs, nice restaurants. $100,000 a year in chefs and semi-microwave meals, I guess, but with nice surroundings, sort of thing. It does seem to be the way these sort of boozers have gone. But yeah, that Friday night in there was legendary. I only know it from reading the books, but there was a disco that all the villages and towns nearby, that's where you went on a Friday night. And then,
it's right outside. Like, I mean, if Carlin made lakes, it's going to be that. It's going to be that. I mean, you've got like a pub right outside the gates of the lake, and you can, you back in the day, you could just hop over the fence, go across the field, and you're back in there. You're back fishing again. It was like unbelievable.
Harefield across the road. What other lakes are on that road? I mean, it's got to be one of the most legendary roads in the country as far as fishing lakes go. You got the Korda Lake on there as well.
You got Korda, you got Broadwater, you got Harefield, and then along the canal you got Pitt 3 and 4, all those lakes. And then just over just over the back of Broadwater, then you've got Cons, Harrow, fisheries. It's like I liken things to mountain ranges, and it's like this is the flipping Himalayas of carp fishing. I mean, it's different now, isn't it? Because there are more and more lakes popping up around the country now, but it's still got and a lot of those lakes are run in the old-fashioned traditional way. They're not always the easiest lakes to get on in the world, but they continue the tradition of carp fishing.
Oh, I remember the Cons sort of back in the day when I was keen, living in Watford in the mid-90s, and I was driving around looking at all those lakes, and the Cons was, I mean, nobody ever kind of let it be known what was swimming about in there. I did find out later on down the line. And Frank Warwick's got a funny story. Did he tell you the story about the baiting needle in his kidneys while doing a guest session on the Cons?
He's got too many stories. No, I've never heard that one.
I think he told it on one of our extra podcasts. I think like behind the paywall. But yeah, he had a baiting needle into his kidneys apparently on the Cons on like a guest session that nobody can ever get. These sessions, on there, and he wasn't having none of the hospital. Nothing. Remember those old sort of with the yellow handles, the big baiting needles with the massive.
I have one in my hand. Yeah, no, I have one in my hand. And did I tell you that on the phone the other night?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't come out. That was an operation. That was like a night in hospital.
What they have to do? Cut into it and pull it out, like make a slit.
Yeah, I've still got the scar here now. Yeah, but a bit like you, but yours came out a little bit easier, didn't it?
The hook through my thumb. It wasn't easy. She couldn't do it. She had to fully anaesthetise it in the end. She tried to give me the laughing gas, and I had a lot of laughing gas in my time at festivals. And I've never really known it as a pain. Duller. What's the word I'm looking for? Pain reducer. Well, there's a medical term. But anyway, it didn't really work. I felt the nice buzz off the thingy, but as soon as they tried moving the hook, I was screaming, nearly knocking the nurse out. Yeah, so they had to put all the injections in it and then push it through. But it was like, I mean, it was nothing compared to some of the ones that I've seen. Like there's been some horrible fishing injury type incidents, but yeah, we had a feature on the extras that was, I'm sure it was fishing injury. Sure, that was it. We had scary stories. We had a few of them. I might actually put them back up online behind a Patreon or something on the paywall. But yeah, Frank's was, in fact, all Frank's stories were incredible, as you probably found out today.
We've just been recording with him. Well, Frank came on last year, and it was, you wouldn't be surprised to hear it was our longest ever podcast, 4 hours. And Frank could talk for, but he's got so many fascinating stories. I mean, like today we did an hour and a half with him today, and it was like, right, we're going to refine this down. We got so much content out of him because he's just an abundance of information, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's one of our most popular guests. He's been on a few times, and it's the knowledge. You get people that like listening to these sort of conversations, just chatting, meandering, through life and getting to know people. But some people want their brain to get working overtime, think concepts they'd never thought about before, and we have a couple of guests that do that, and Frank's one of the main ones. He's I love listening to him. We did a 7-hour podcast with him.
7 hours.
And then Frank and I did 2 hours after we turned the cameras off. We carried on going until we passed out. And then Frank had a stroke the next day, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, I had, yeah. Well, his podcast, when he came in with us, so his daughter Jade came up. So Jade was in the studio, right? And it's like, that poor girl, right? She's going to be here a long time. So she was hanging around for 4 hours, thinking, what the hell? She probably knows her dad by now.
Did he seem okay, his health and stuff? He seemed in good spirits?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that I've built a real friendship with him actually. Since he came on the show, and yeah, he seems fine. He's just had his COVID jab. He's happy. It means he can go fishing. In Europe this year. But yeah, he's all right, isn't he, old Frank?
I had my jab on Friday.
Yeah.
For that exact reason, just for fishing, so I can get away. I'm booked on Lake Bled in May for like 5 days, and boy, was I ill Friday night. I was fine now. Yeah, really, really ill.
We were saying, weren't we, on the phone? It's the. I mean, you got the proteins from the virus that you're putting back into your body, aren't you? We were talking to Frank about that earlier. So there is a chance you're going to get those sort of side effects.
Did he have some side effects? Did he say?
Not as bad as yours. Not as bad as yours.
Only for a night. I mean, I make it sound worse than it is. It was literally for a night, but it was full blown flu, uncontrollable shivers, hot cold. Aches, whole chest, back, shoulders, everything. But
you've got the coronavirus then, really, for a short period of time.
Yeah,
it's like having symptoms of it.
Yeah, and the next day I just had a headache for 2 days, and today, that was Friday, today's Monday, and today's the first day that I've woke up with no kind of feelings,
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But it's good if it enables me to get abroad this year and go fishing. The festivals are back on in Croatia, apparently, which is my summer sorted. I should be DJing most days for a couple of months, 6 a.m. every morning. I did my record last year at the Defected Festival. I didn't go to bed for 5 days. At 47 years old, it wasn't easy. 48 this year.
Are you one of these people? Have you got a lot of energy then, Jamie? I mean, what's it like on a night out with you?
No, I'm not. I'm not like bouncing around crazy. I'm more. I'm gonna take it all in. I'll get in the zone for an hour or two, and then I want to go mooching and have a look around. And I don't know. I'm not. I wouldn't describe myself as life and soul of any party, but I'm the person that'll get into a nice conversation with you and go for a bit of a boogie and if specific DJs or the time hits me, bang, I'm there. I'm on the front row for 3 hours. But they're staying up last time. Like when you're working at 6 a.m. and the world's best DJs are on in the evenings, and you're DJing till 2-3 in the afternoon. You go and get some lunch, have a few shots with the lunch, plan to go to bed, and then get up again at night. And then someone's group of girls come or whatever, and they're like, "Yeah, we're all going down to the beach now." You're thinking, "All right, I'll have a little doze on the beach," but the music's playing. As soon as you get down there, like the adrenaline goes, and you got goosebumps and everything. Before you know it, Kerry Chandler's on at the main stage at 9 o'clock. Before you know it, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm DJing at 6. It's like, right, okay, we're not going to bed tonight. And then the same thing happened the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Got 5 days. I was like, whoa.
So how does that compare? So because you're a guitarist as well, aren't you? So how does playing a guitar, being in a band like that, compare to being a DJ? Which one do you prefer?
It's the same. The high is the high. So the high is from the people. It's from the performing. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've worked in what was branded. It was on the centre page of the News of the World Sunday one, whatever the big Sunday paper that no longer exists because of the kid hacking and all that stuff. But whatever that was, they voted it most outrageous bar in Britain. It was on the centre pages on a Sunday. Anyway, that was where I DJ'd. Seen incredible scenes in there on Sunday afternoons. It was famous for the Saturday afternoon, the Sunday afternoon debauchery, and we're a very explicit podcast, and I don't even know if I can say after stuff.
Really?
On there, yeah. But I used to say, like, there's 1,000 people in there. They'd be queuing up for an hour, 2 hours. Sometimes from 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, we opened at 12. It'd be full. Within half an hour of opening, there was already more people in the queue than the venue could take. It was one in, one out, and it was like a blue comedian, chubby brown type guy, and me as the DJ, and it was all sort of party music. But I always used to say that feeling of 1,000 people, the first bar of YMCA or something equally cheesy. that rush of elation that goes through your body head to toe when like 1,000 people throw their arms up at the same time, like at the first bar of the song. And we had to keep the songs down. Like, you couldn't really play songs like that too often, because anything that had ever been associated with a football team or whatever could literally cause a riot.
Right.
So, you know, Cheer Up Sleepy Jean, anything like that had been used in I think the Mackhams used that song. You just couldn't play. The doorman would be on you straight away. Get it off now, you know, because the place would just go up every single time. So your balance was trying to keep the atmosphere at fever point without getting to fever point, like so you had to hold back. Sometimes you just tease a song for a couple of seconds but not actually play it. But that elation you get was exactly the same as playing a big lead solo, you know, in a really cool song you'd written, or playing Sunrise, you know, 5 a.m, 6 a.m on a beach in Bali, which I've done. I have a residency at a place called Cheeky Monkey Bar on Gili Islands. And it's all the same. Like, it's a reward system. It's you probably know more about this than me, but it's the dopamine release. It's
serotonin.
Serotonin. It's our pleasure system kicking in. And to be honest, I used to equate back in the 80s and the 90s when I discovered raving. It was the era of the illegal raves and the squats and the new age travellers, as they were called, which most of the people I went to school with. I was into rock music, so I was going to like the Donington Monsters of Rock, 1988, Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, and everybody. And then I'd be at a rave at the weekend, and a lot of people didn't get how I could like both, because it was one or the other at the time. Like, guitar music was, you know, I remember when they phased guitar, there was literally a time in the top 40, there wasn't a single guitar in any song in the top 40 at one point. It was a big shift in music, and the 90s Britpop era kind of pulled it back a bit. But I always found the elation, like the intensity of a rock song versus that high from being in a club or an illegal rave or in a field or something at the time. They were identical, and people didn't understand it. I was like, they're the same. Like that rush you get, you know, at the energy of a heavy metal track or a dance gig. It's very, very similar, but it's doing the same things to your body. I'm guessing, you know.
I think a lot of people just don't allow themselves. You have allegiances of like heavy metal fans and the dance scene and all that stuff, and it's like, you know, there's it's a little bit territorial, and people are a little bit scared to step onto the other side a little bit at times as well, aren't they? And if they did, it's like you say, they would experience the same type of rush.
So what's your favourite concerts or musical type event, would you say? Have you got standout?
My favourite gig I've ever been to was Guns N' Roses on their Usual Illusion tour.
Okay.
We talked about this. It was absolutely insane. You had 60,000 people. There were fires burning like amongst the crowd. It pissed it down with rain just before Guns N' Roses came on, and then the sun came out, and they were late because they were always late, weren't they? They were late for every single gig that they ever played, and then the sun came out, and the what's the word? The moisture coming off of people, you could see it around the whole stadium, and the sweat coming off everybody, and then this helicopter comes swooping over the stadium, circles around the stadium, lands. And within a minute, they were on stage playing Night Train. And it was like, fucking hell. What that is like, I want to be a rock star. I want that, but it didn't work out.
I was at Bon Jovi, Milton Keynes Bowl. Can't remember when it was.
I went to that.
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s. Can't remember which one it was.
I bet it was 93.
That would make sense. Yeah, it was definitely
lots of girls there, Jamie.
Yes, I did actually meet one for the day.
I like that story.
Yeah, that's for another time. But it was the time. In fact, we'll be able to work out when it was roughly, because Walk This Way, Run DMC and Aerosmith was big at the time, and during Bon Jovi's set, Europe were on first. In fact, there was someone else than Europe, than Bon Jovi. And halfway through Bon Jovi's set, his helicopter landed at the back of the stage. We were like, that's ready to. They must be finishing soon. It's ready to get them off. Same thing as what you described. Steven Tyler and Joe Perry from Aerosmith jumped out. Well, we didn't see him get out of the helicopter, but from the helicopter landing, they walked straight on the stage, full attire, makeup, big hair, and everything, and did Walk This Way with Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora. It was incredible. It was just like, wow.
I think that was earlier, wasn't it? I think that was probably like New Jersey sort of time, wasn't it? When
I think it was the New Jersey tour, yeah.
Do you know what, right? Because we were talking about them, like, because they're a bit of like you don't want to admit to liking bands like Bon Jovi nowadays. It doesn't sound, but it's like a massive part of your childhood. If you were born in the 80s and you were growing up in that time, that was the soundtrack to a lot of people's lives. And
Slippery When Wet was, I remember that at school. It was just incredible album, you know. I have guilty pleasures every now and again. I'll go and listen.
Since you were on about that, right, the other day, actually, I've had that guilty pleasure. I've been listening to Lay Your Hands on Me and stuff like that, and thinking, do you know what, Lay Your Hands on Me is one of the greatest intros to a rock song ever. You know, with that like dum 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 dum, you know, that beat and everything. But yeah. Don't you love music? I want to do an interview with another rock star. That's the next one. We got a guy coming on, Christian Walders from Fear Factory. Christian, probably. Do you know him? Have you spoken to him very much? No. He was in a heavy metal band called Fear Factory. Toured with Guns N' Roses and Metallica. Big carp angler. He lives LA and. I'd like to do a podcast talking about America because you were saying before as well that, you know, that's a market that's a little bit untapped at the moment, which, you know, it could explode, you know.
For fishing podcasts, definitely, yeah. Carl and Alex have been fairly smart, haven't they, with doing their hookups with America or with, you know, building the YouTube following. There's a lot more people in America, and there are a lot of outdoors. If carp fishing ever takes off in America like it has done in the rest of the world, which I think it will, you know, they're nuisance fish over there now, but carp fishing is like the most exciting form of fishing, you know, bar kind of the you know, the Florida Keys type stuff that I know Ali and
bass fishing and all that stuff. Yeah.
Apart from all that stuff, that game fishing, do they call it? Big game fishing. That seems extremely exciting, but it's still not the camping and the cooking and, you know, all the sort of things we get. You know, they tend to be day trips and stuff, don't they? And it's totally different. Even though it's exciting, it's totally different to what we do. You know, 3-4 weeks holiday in France. Like, there's not many styles of fishing that I think are more exciting, that cover kind of the nature, all the different things. So it makes sense. Carp fishing is starting to take off a little bit in America now. It makes complete sense that they'll become as addicted to it as we have, and the rest of Europe, because it's took over fishing. It's took over all other styles of fishing in every country I know of. So why wouldn't it in America? So.
Well, someone like Christian is like really passionate, a European angler that's living out there, talking about doing angling tours out there and stuff like that. That's how you get things moving a little bit as well, isn't it? And you're trying to find some of these sort of untapped waters with not so many fish in them as well. There's too many fish in a lot of those lakes. That's the problem. But you've got a Mediterranean climate in California, so it's like it's the same as Spain and France. You know, it's got the same potential. It just, you know, it just needs people to start fishing more. And
yeah, it's obviously we had that nice 50-pounder, the beautiful one that was caught. It was big and from California as well. Obviously they keep it quiet over there because of the bow hunting and stuff like that. You know, they want to put the fish back, and I believe, was it you saying last time we spoke, there might be some law where you kind of have to kill them if you get them out. I'm not sure.
Well, the only thing that potentially holds night fishing back in California is their rules on no night fishing. And I know you said, well, if there's enough people doing it, they're soon bang that on the head. But yeah, that's quite a tight rule over there at the moment. Law. It's a law.
Yeah, but that used to be the same in a lot of European countries. You know, I remember Holland having similar rules. You couldn't use any sort of shelter with the door on or whatever. You know, as things become more popular, groups, the equivalent of the Angling Trust in their country, they lobby for this sort of stuff and saying, look, this is kind of standard, it happens everywhere else in every other country, why can't it happen here? We're causing no harm. They present an argument, and them sort of bylaws can be changed, I think, long term, because that certainly is the best bit about carp fishing for me, that the night fishing, the camping side of it. I enjoy that as much. I'm not even.
And I mean, Americans love that as well. I mean, Americans, they like their gadgets, don't they? And taking more kit than they really, really need. I mean, it's set up for them, really.
I predict it here that there's going to be a carp fishing boom in the next 10 years in America.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Excuse me. Listen, we've done at least an hour, way more than an hour actually. So
yeah.
I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you, Simon, for joining us. Check out who we got in the next Thinking Tackle. Is Frank.
Frank could be next. We just had one come out today, so Frank could be the next one. A couple of weeks time. So. Is this going out Friday?
This will go out on Friday, I would have thought, yeah.
Okay, so it'll be a week then Monday, yeah.
Yeah.
And then hopefully back to normal as soon as we can get studio guests back in. That's what we're looking for now, Jamie. These Zoom podcasts are okay, they tie us over, but we want guests back in the studio. You'll be one of them.
I look forward to it. Thanks for the time, Simon, and we'll speak soon.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks.
The website at www.thecarpcast.com. There you'll find extra content, merchandise and lots more to support the show, including our entire back catalogue of free offerings.